Okay, and we are live, folks. Welcome back to week 2 of Vince Dao Live. How are we all doing, ladies and gentlemen? So today on Vince Dao Live, we're actually going to be mainly the main point of this show. Okay, the main point of this show is we're going to be reacting to that infamous debate between John Doyle and Lauren Witzke versus I think it was Blaire White and what's her name, Karlyn Borysenko, right? And this was basically over what it means to be conservative and the direction that conservatism should take. In this case, it was specifically on LGBT issues. And so we're going to be reacting to that on this stream and going all over that. And we're going to be talking in general about the news a little bit. But what I want to know from you guys is I'm going to start the countdown, go live on Instagram, and then we'll get started here. Would you guys prefer that we start by talking about the news and then live react to the debate, or just start off live reacting to the debate? I feel like most of you guys want to just start with the debate and let's get going with that and then worry about stupid news stuff later. But just let me know. I'm going to start the countdown right now, go live on Instagram, get people into here, and we will get started in just a little bit, folks. So don't go anywhere. All right. See you guys in like 5 minutes.
Just 6 months had proved.
Excuse us. This vote.
Folks, this is exciting. I was literally just walking around Capitol Hill today and I managed to bump into Nancy Pelosi. Speaker Pelosi, so you promised $2,000 stimulus checks if Democrats won the Georgia Senate runoff. So why have you not backtracked on that promise? Can we get an answer, Mrs. Pelosi? Nope, I guess not. It looks like Pelosi is dodging questions from the press, but let's keep circling around here. So over here, guys, it looks like I've stumbled into a meeting of top congressional Democrats. I believe they're discussing this year's budget. I didn't vote for more foreign wars because you did vote for more foreign wars, and you sort of knew that you were voting for more foreign wars. So why did you vote for him? It's going to be a giant I told you so for me and a lot of other conservatives. Left troops out in the cold, turned their backs on you. I was told to just protect them, then you'd fold. But on day one, that's pretty bold. You go and make us wear a mask. You say it's not too much to ask, but then you don't wear a mask. Your own rules too much a task. I'm saying Biden's hiding, Biden's frightened, Biden keeping us divided. Biden sickness heightens, and Kamala's grip on power tightens. This ain't unity, this ain't for you and me. This is hurt and break things with total impunity. Want a clean slate from the past, but ain't nothing changed with you. You still America last. And you showed it pretty fast, so don't no one listen. You a pretty big ass, and your VP ain't cool cause she has a little sass. The news live in a fantasy while you giving amnesty, but you ain't got a fan in me cause I care for our people. See, yes, I said our people, not illegals at Home Depot, cause some children pretty feeble, so why are we the world's weasel? Yeah, it's about power. Elites in their ivory towers, American voters are too sour, drawn them out by the hour with illegals for the power. You don't care, you a coward. Yeah, illegals for the power, illegals for the coward. Yeah, hella sedentary, incompetent per secretary. Wish you could be like Barry, but at least her legs are hairy. That don't make no sense. Nah, you don't make no sense. Liberal cities full of tents, migrants wanna hop the fence. Yeah, people losing jobs, people chased by all the mobs, people in garages for the ops, people falling in the slobs. Yeah, this is Joe's America, this is what he plans for ya. Now we back in Paris, now we gon' perish, yeah. Hey, I can't say I didn't tell you. I can't say I didn't warn you, because I did.
My haters be giving my name to the feds. They went to my parents' house, I was at home in bed. All this death either want me in prison or dead. I pulled up at the crib, MAGA hat still on my head. Bryson Gray did nothing wrong, I'm going Roger Stone. They probably gon' tap my cribs, they probably tap my phone. And people send me death threats, better leave me alone. Cause I just bought another gun and it's legally owned. Rappers dissing on my name, hoping they help their status. Rookies hating on the vet, get in the gym and practice. And they said I'm a terrorist with semi-automatics. I guess they probably love me better if I was in the Castro. Hey, I'm Magas most wanted, ayy. Hey, I'm Magas most wanted, ayy. I'm Magas most wanted, ayy. Hey, I'm Magas most wanted, ayy. Hey, I'm Magas most wanted with the smoke if you want it, ayy. I'm with the smoke if you want it, ayy. I'm with the smoke if you want it, with the smoke if you want it, ayy. Hey, I'm Magas most wanted, ayy. Hey, I'm Magas most wanted, ayy. I'm Magas most wanted. I'm a Christian with a MAGA hat and AR. Of course, they not trying to let.
Cool. And for those of you guys on the Instagram Live, I'm going to cut it off right now. Do me a favor, head on over to the link in my bio and come join us on YouTube. But anyways, guys, for those of you guys who are here on YouTube, welcome my fellow style heroes. Welcome my fellow analysts. Let me just get the banner for this week going. Yeah, there we go. So it seems to me, you guys did exactly what I expected, which is you guys want to get to this debate first. Okay, so let's get to this debate, folks. Okay, and hopefully I'm not lagging out right now because it says my connection unable right now. So hopefully I'm not like, but I hope not. Okay, so let me know if I am. I'll try to like delay the stream until my freaking Wi-Fi stops being stupid. So give us a second here. But until then, yeah, it is laggy. Okay, hold on. Just wait. It'll probably come back. Give me a second. But in the meantime, tell us, guys, tell us how your day. There we go. Now we're back. Okay, now we're back. Now we should be back now. Okay. Anyways, with that being said, okay, welcome to this episode of Vince Dao Live. Let me know right now if I'm fully back. Hopefully I'm working now. Am I working now? All right. Okay, never mind. It's back. There you go. Yeah, I get a notification. I don't know, dude. Literally. Okay, to buy Vince Dao. We should actually someone did buy Vince Dao new internet, but it still doesn't work. Okay, like freaking hold on. You know what? Let's do something else. Hold on. Give me a second. Because I don't know why it keeps doing this. Okay. Fairly good. Okay, now that should be working. All right. Anyways, guys. Sorry about that. That was stupid. Let's actually talk about this. Okay, let's actually start this damn live stream. Holy crap. Okay. Anyways, so I'm going to get into that debate in a little bit. But first of all, I wanted to discuss the issue that sort of revolves around this debate itself. And this is an issue that I was sort of caught up in this week as well. It actually had nothing to do with the whole, what is the place of LGBT and conservatism and how can they mix if they can mix? Like that wasn't actually what I was talking about this week. But I was talking about a very fundamental question this week of what does it truly mean to be MAGA? Like, what does it truly mean to not just be a Trump supporter, but to be MAGA? Like there are two separate ideas. Not, obviously Trump is sort of the creator of it, the founder of it, but it is also sort of this like ideological movement. And what does MAGA actually mean? I think a lot of people in conservatism, just to preface this debate, I think a lot of people in conservatism get it twisted, okay? There are a lot of people in conservatism that seem to think that MAGA is simply a more diverse, more woke version of tired old establishment GOP ideals, when it is simply not, okay? The point of MAGA was never to, oh, look at us, we have more minorities voting Republican, or look at us, we have more gay people voting. That was never what MAGA was about. As a matter of fact, MAGA is especially, off the premise of having the same tired old, okay, GOP ideals. MAGA is not the same old message of free trade and economic freedom and foreign interventionism, but now it's a black person spreading the message like that. That was never what MAGA was about. MAGA is a fundamentally anti-GOP establishment, populist, working class movement that, unlike arguably a lot of previous, figures and previous modes of thought of conservatism, sides with the American working class and the American middle class over the interests of the political establishment in DC, over the interest of big corporations and corporate America, where it is relevant and where it is appropriate, and over the interests of foreign nations, okay? And people need to understand this. And I was talking a little bit about this on Instagram, and a lot of people thought it meant I don't support Trump anymore, which is sort of not true. It's not sort of not true. It is not true, but it sort of actually sort of demonstrates the fact that a lot of people don't really understand why Trump rose to power and why he was there in the first place. Like, look, yeah, Trump has a great sense of humor. Sure, Trump is a fighter. But the reason Trump rose in 2016 to begin with is because he was fundamentally different from the old GOP, okay? Trump took on the battles that the old GOP was not willing to take on. Some of it was simply out of principle, like they just didn't believe it. Some of it was simply out of the fact that you have a lot of people in the Republican Party, obviously, that are corrupt and are tied to donors or special interests, right? But overall, Trump took on, in 2016 specifically, Trump took on what a lot of people would argue and sort of see it like this: the rigged political system that is bought out by elites, bought out by special interests. You have a political class that cares more about foreign nations than the American people, refuses to put the American people first. That is MAGA, okay? It is a working class populist movement. It is not the old Republican Party with more minorities or more gay people or whatever it is, okay? And that is what I noticed a lot of people have tried to make MAGA out to be. A lot of people have tried to make MAGA out to be the same old party, but now we have like cooler, younger figures. That is not what it's about. Okay. That is not what it's about. And I noticed that as soon as I said, look, 2016 Trump is the better Trump than 2020 Trump. In a lot of ways, 2020 Trump was a massive downgrade. It tells me a lot about the fundamental misunderstanding a lot of people have of what it actually means when people think that means you're no longer supporting Trump. Like when I come out and say that Trump should not be endorsing a rhino like Mike Crapo. I'm sorry, Mike Crapo. I believe that's his name, right? Mike Crapo out of Idaho, that is fundamentally anti-MAGA. People see that as me going against Trump when I'm actually trying to go for Trump. I'm actually trying to look out for his interests. I actually think I said it better. Tell the chat the other day when I said it like this. Okay, hold on, give me a second. I said, never forget that MAGA isn't and was never supposed to be a more diverse, more woke version, entire old GOP ideals, or whatever some people think it is. MAGA was and always will be a fundamentally anti-establishment populist movement that seeks to defend the American working and middle class over the interests of big business, globalist elites, and foreign nations. So many of the establishment types now embracing MAGA are doing it for the popularity. Don't trust them. These people will betray America's workers and families immediately for corporate or DC interests, but will continue to pretend to be on our side for the votes. Okay? People say I'm cutting out. Yeah, it says my connection is unstable. Oh my God, just so annoying. All right, let's just wait for it to come back, folks. It just does this like very randomly. It's actually very annoying. It's very annoying. Hold on. Almost back. Not back. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. Let's wait for it. Hold on. Fingers crossed it just won't cut out entirely. Oh my God, this is so stupid. All right, hold on. Very annoying, folks. Very, very, very annoying. Audio and video desynced. Your stream needs to, that's just my USB. That's just how USB webcams work. Hold on, give me a second. Don't go anywhere. There we go. Now we're back. Okay. There we go. Now we're okay. I think this loud, by the way, is simply because I have like an hour-long video, like literally just like waiting here, and I think that's why it's going to take a while. Someone says use an Ethernet cable. I can't. My house does not work like that. It literally like I'm upstairs, the router's downstairs. We can't move. It just doesn't work like that. So hold on. You know what? Give me a second. I'll be right back. I'm gonna join my hotspot. That'll probably be the best way to go. Hold on. If my hotspot will show up. My hotspot won't show up. Never mind. Okay. Let's see here. There we go. All right, hold on. Let me try that. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, let's see. Now, let's see if let me know if the connection is better this way. This is on my cellular hotspot. Anyways, guys, before we completely just let's get this freaking debate out of the way now, guys. With all that being said, because I'm pretty sure that's what's like causing the stream to lag. Is like I have this hour-long debate, literally just waiting in the queue. That's probably what's going to cause it to take forever. But so with that being said, that is the central debate as to what we're talking about here. Like, what is the future of conservatism? And as I've said many times, we will not win by being more woke than the left. Okay, we simply will not succeed by doing that. The reason is because and by the way, I don't believe in woke politics to begin with, but the fundamental reason why we actually will lose trying to be more woke than the left is that the left will always be better at being woke than we are. Okay, like they will always be more we will always be more diverse. There will always be like more everything. Okay, they literally they are the people that control the standards of wokeness, and so I don't see why we even try to play into that game. As a matter of fact, the way we win is by fundamentally being anti-woke, by providing a counter to the many people in this country that are actually disaffected by woke culture, which is a lot of people. Okay, that is the way we go. And I think the way we outflank them, Red Eagle Politics said this the other week, and I think he's totally right. The way we actually outflank them, the way we actually beat them is on the populist issues, right? We be more anti-system, more anti-establishment than them. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but I want to get into this debate today. On Slightly Offensive, there was this debate between, I guess this is what they labeled it, and I guess this is accurate, is Christian conservatives versus pro-LGBT Republicans. And we're going to react to that debate right here, folks. So let me put it up in the queue right now. Hold on. Let's see. There we go. So basically,
was the first one to celebrate me being
Karlyn.
Stop this real quick. The debate going on here is between John Doyle and Lauren Witzke, who John Doyle is like literally like one of my favorite YouTubers ever. Lauren Witzke is like this America First conservative candidate that ran for, I think it was Congress or Senate in Delaware. And then on the other side, you have Blaire White, transgender Republican YouTuber. I think you guys probably know who she is. And I don't really know who this person on the top left is. I think her name is Lauren. No, not Lauren. Not her name is Karlyn. Sorry, Karlyn Borysenko, and she's just like a Twitter political commentator. I honestly don't really know that much about her other than she's some type of LGBT. I'm not really sure. But anyways, this was a pretty interesting debate, and I think we as people might say, well, this is like this divides conservatism. I think we as conservatives actually do need to have these debates because. And, maybe on election year, it's like, oh, we should be united. But, now that we're off election year, we came off a pretty big disaster, let's just say, in the fall. It is time to start asking these questions. It's time to ask what our identity should be. And I think it is actually debates like this that make us better. Just to preface before we begin and start reacting to this debate, and I'll give my thoughts on it, but mainly I also want you guys to hear there's some pretty interesting points raised in this debate. I was debating like whether or not to actually like say where I stand, but I did watch some of this debate, and I think it is appropriate for me to explain my biases because obviously I'm going to give biased commentary because I'm going to be telling you where I stand and where I believe. I basically agree with everything John Doyle said in this debate. Lauren Witzke, I like her. But she does say things, let's just say a little bit bluntly, like she is a bit of a firecracker. Okay, I don't know if I think she is in the right place. She has the right sentiment. I do think some of her behavior in this debate was a little bit questionable, but overall, like I said, John Doyle is the person I'm like fully standing by in this debate. And Blaire White, what I appreciate about Blaire White, besides this Karlyn person, is I think Blaire White actually tried to keep it reasonable and keep it civil. You guys will see. Okay, but I wanted to explain that because I think it's appropriate to actually explain where I stand. With that being said, let's get into this debate and let's react to this debate and let's have some fun here on Vince Dao Live. All right?
Karlyn, I celebrated that you were banned on Twitter because you repeatedly tweeted that my husband should be deported, Lauren.
He's an alien.
I don't really know how much you know about me, but I'm probably the most vocal anti-children transitioning person on the internet. It's what I'm. Right. I let you speak.
The best thing you can do for us is grow out your mustache and tell people not to live like you.
the way, I just want to say, shout out to Slightly Offensive for actually hosting this debate, because this is, hold on, I'm lagging. I'm just not going to say it.
There's been a lot of arguments on Twitter recently where people cannot decide what it means to be right-wing or what the future of the party is. If you don't know why that's important, well, just look around you at the radical leftism, all the insanity in the culture, and a president who borrowed.
Okay, now that I'm back, my reception, while it's still solid, I just want to say, like, shout out to Slightly Offensive. Slightly Offensive is my boy, but shout out to him for actually having this debate, because I think this is something that a lot of conservatives are kind of scared to talk about, and I understand why that is. And speaking of that, just to preface this real quick, this is obviously a debate on LGBT issues, and I don't really expect to have problems from you guys, but let's just have a reminder to keep it optical in the chat, okay? And I will try to watch the optics, because this is something that YouTube could easily deplatform for hate speech if there's literally like one thing wrong that they remotely don't like, okay? And you guys are fine. You guys really don't have issues with this, but I'm saying, because they actually do deplatform YouTubers for what people say in their live chat too, like that is like ridiculous, but it is actually true that like YouTube does do that as well. So just want to say, watch the optics. But yeah, shout out to Slightly Offensive for having this debate. I think this is an
election and a country who wonders what is our future and who is going to save us from this absolute madness. Well, a lot of people seem to disagree, which is why I brought a panel of guests on to talk about what the future of the right wing looks like and how we win back our country. If we can bring them on the screen, I went ahead and I invited on a myriad of people. I have Karlyn Borysenko.
Well done.
Awesome. Commentator. We also have Lauren Witzke. She ran for Congress in Delaware. We also have Blaire White, YouTuber as well, and John Doyle, YouTuber, and they're all here to answer questions.
My boy, John Doyle.
So let's talk a little bit about this.
If you guys aren't subscribed to John Doyle,
starting with Lauren, how do you describe yourself politically?
Okay, so I am socially conservative. I'm advocately. I've always been economically populist. Economic populism is the future of our party. However, preserving social conservatism within the Republican Party is a real passion of mine. I'm very pro-family. I'm very pro-life. My whole motto is I just like to win and save babies. So that's what I do.
My boy.
Awesome. Blaire, go ahead and tell us where you lean politically.
Yeah.
By the way, real quick, shout out to Goose. Thank you for the $2 super chat. So Goose says, stop being broke. Well, it's going to take a lot more than $2 to make Vince Dao stop being broke, but I appreciate the sentiment. I appreciate the donation, Goose. Okay, anyways, sorry if I keep pausing this. Let's actually watch this.
Matches center right, so that's me. I don't have sort of the popular story everyone loves of like, I'm a former liberal, I'm a lifelong Republican, always voted that way. And yeah, that's me. I'm definitely a little bit less socially conservative, and that's where I land.
John, go ahead.
It's a pretty clear copy paste between Lauren and myself, I think. Fiscally
based. Let's go.
Socially conservative.
My boy.
Karlyn,
we got to get him on the podcast sometime.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different in that, some people say I'm a former liberal. I'm actually a current liberal. I have never stopped being a liberal, even though I did leave the Democratic Party. I politically, on my political compass test, I tend to be right.
Okay, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. We have a debate over like what I guess it's technically what it means to be a Republican, but still fundamentally the debate we're having is what does it mean to be a conservative? And here we have a self-proclaimed liberal trying to like determine what conservatives can and should think and should try to like this is like, I'm just like, come on, like you have already lost the debate in this context. Again, in general context, you want to talk generally about the issue, sure, but in this context, if you've already lost the debate if you're calling yourself a liberal, because we're fundamentally talking about conservatives here in the future of conservatism. And here we have a self-proclaimed liberal. It tells you a lot. It tells you a lot negatively about a lot of things. Okay, a lot of things, folks. But
in the center, and I frankly just want common sense people to come up with common sense solutions.
Awesome. So as we get into this, I want to let you know something important. This is the first question we're going to jump into, which is, what is the future of the right wing, right? If we're going to win a war, if we're going to fight the left, we've got to figure out who's on our side. True. And there's a split of trying to figure out if the future of the right is a conservative, moral Christian party that is a strong nationalist background, or if it's this big tent party full of liberals, libertarians, disaffected left, etc. Before we jump into that, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor for today, guys. The world is getting crazy.
Sorry, Elijah. I know you're demonetized. Okay, don't get mad at me. But look, the viewers don't want to watch your sponsor. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Elijah. Okay, look. Oh my God. Now I feel bad because he's actually demonetized. We're gonna skip.
Which is why I want to tell you about Northwest Retention. Northwest Retention has a few goals that are amazing. This is a company I love personally and own their products. Number one, they want to bring the greatest quality value and service to the market.
Okay, what? I thought I just skipped this. What the hell happened?
To get 10% off your entire order. That's nwretention.com.
Okay.
Promo
It's not letting me
offensive.
Okay,
guys, so let's jump right into this. So my question is this. As we look to take back the country from the radical left and we seek to make it a stronger place, how are we going to do that? Is it A, by building a stronger, conservative, Christian moral party, or is it B, building a big tent party of libertarians, the disaffected left, conservatives, etc.? Like with the questions, we'll try to go in the same order. We'll start with Lauren.
Yeah, so, I'm really confused why this is a discussion about the future of the right when we have a liberal, actually she's a Democrat, with one good opinion. We also have a transgender on here. I don't really think we should be giving a platform to this kind of degeneracy, which is a gateway drug to pedophilia. I absolutely disagree. We were the party of traditional marriage. We were the party that opposed gay marriage. We've always been that party. We've always been the party of family. We won handedly in 2016 without the LGBTQ vote. We started losing when we started compromising. So I'm really curious why people who are libertarians, you have a party of freaks who love the free market that you can join. But don't come into our party and try to influence it, because that is how we are losing. And in case you haven't noticed, we are losing. They are now advocating for chemical castrations for children. We're spotlighting transgenderism at CPAC. And I am a traditional Christian conservative. I believe in family. I believe that family is the foundation of everything that this country was founded on.
That's true.
And no, I do not believe that we should be compromising our values and spotlighting a lifestyle that is a gateway drug to pedophilia every single time. And you cannot deny it isn't, because it's here.
See, that's the thing. See, Lauren, this is what I was saying about Lauren. Like, she is right. Now, going after like your debate partners personally at the beginning of the debate does that's why I understand why some people were saying like she was very rude in this debate. And I kind of understand that. But I do think what she is saying fundamentally, for the most part, is 100% true. I agree. I understand. I think her sentiment is correct. Now, going after people like directly as soon as you start to debate, questionable tactic. But I think more like generally speaking, she is correct here. So
Blaire, would you respond?
I think that there's a difference between, you spoke sort of to gender ideology, which is definitely rampant on college campuses, definitely taking over culture. I think that's different than just people who, as individuals, may technically be gay, lesbian, bisexual, any of the above. And I think that it's possible to fight against gender ideology while holding true that there are going to be people that are just different in life. I definitely am not here to speak to the future of social conservatism, because that's just not my lane. But as far as the party, I think that a big tent is most likely the future. I think that knowing my generation and a lot of people my age, which is mid-20s and Gen Z a little younger, I think that they voted for Trump the first and second time, or just the second time, because Trump kind of ushered the party into an era of a little more secularism. I don't think he was overtly religious. I think to an extent he was a little performative with religion and with prayer and things like that. And I think that attracted a lot of new voters. And I'm not sure that, going full force religious social conservatism is really the future.
Okay, well, let's kind of break down what she said. Okay, well, I just dropped my AirPod case. That's not good. No, okay, let's actually kind of break down what she said. So it is true that Trump himself, not really a Christian, right? I know he does it performatively to but fundamentally the MAGA movement, even if you want to say I don't think the MAGA movement fundamentally was a stray away from traditionalism to secularism. In fact, the MAGA the basis that the MAGA movement really was started off of is fundamentally more socially conservative, more socially traditionalist than the sort of GOP of Mitt Romney. Okay. And that is sort of at the heart of populism, you know? And I think on a lot of issues, the MAGA sentiment actually is more, and like you can say, oh, it was religious, it was not religious, but it doesn't really matter, because when you really look at MAGA itself, even if Trump is not the biggest Christian, fundamentally the ideas that they were promoting and ideas that they tried to fight for were intended and ultimately did have the effect of strengthening the political power of Christianity in America. So I'm not sure I really agree with her on that. And then, you know, she talks about being a big tent. It is true that, like, for voting, the purpose of creating a voting coalition, you want to create the widest coalition possible. And that's not to say that, like, individuals who are gay or transgender or whatever are not welcome to vote for Republicans, because they absolutely are. I think it's more of a question of what issues is the party going to focus on and spend time on, and what groups is the party actually going to go after and try to win the vote of. And the reality is, I think they say gay people make up like 3% of the US population. And despite a lot of attempts, frankly, in 2020 to try to appeal to that community, really did not make any marginal gains. Okay. And so I think, and at the same time, many of the things that I think the Republican Party or just the conservative movement in general tried to promote actually alienated a lot of strict, hardcore Christians. And by the way, austere Christians do actually make up the majority of conservatism, okay, of American political conservatism. And so if you want to talk about a big tent, you have to be immediately asking the question, a big tent for who, okay? And the idea of a big tent does not mean that we just change everything that we believe or everything we try to appeal on simply, you know, to win this vote or that vote. I think we have to actually target who we are going after. We have to target the people, target certain groups. That is true, but I don't think that this is the way to do it. And I'll talk more about that as we go on in this stream. I don't want to like talk for too long, but
John, can you respond?
Yeah, I think that the concept of a big tent movement is basically this sort of intra-party democracy that prevents us ultimately from being effective at actually wielding power. And this could date back even.
This is why I love John Doyle so much. He's just true, so true on every single level. Like, it's just amazing guy. I love him.
Where we tried to unite social conservatives with libertarians, with fiscal conservatives, and then we created something which ultimately didn't last in effect, where we're now on the back foot with things such as gender identity, and even now trying it, you know, with pandering to different minority groups, different interest groups, which will never give us more than 8% of the vote, for example. So I think that to actually try something different would be to legitimately establish a strong party with the values that we're nominally in support of, actually wielding the power effectively.
So true.
We were given a chance instead of getting into power and then doing nothing and trying to pander to these groups, thinking that we're going to own the libs and take their voting base away from them.
Yeah, Karlyn, I'm interested to hear your perspective, because obviously this would be a question that would pertain to you directly, since you admit that you're a liberal and you just registered as a Republican. I mean, give us your thoughts.
Yeah. I did. Well, the fact of the matter is that MAGA is not a religious movement. MAGA is a political movement. And in order to win elections, you have to win votes. The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump has never cared about gay marriage. It was never something that he was against. Dude hung out at Studio 50.
This is factually, okay, just as a factual matter, this is factually untrue. Trump did come out against gay marriage at certain points in 2016. He kind of shifted his stance on it. That is true. Ultimately, he ended up being in favor of it. But as a factual matter, she's wrong. She's just wrong. That's not true. Okay. And you'll notice that she's wrong about many actual matters of pure fact in this debate, but we'll go on.
Why would he care? And so I'm on the side of winning too, Lauren. I'm on the side of winning elections. The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump created a Big Tent strategy that brought 10 million more people to him in 2020 than he did in 2016. And if we go back and look at the history of the Republican Party and when they lost the culture war the first time, Ronald Reagan offered a big tent. He said, everyone is welcome in this big tent. He won 2 terms. George H.W. Bush followed him. The Republicans were in control for 12 years until what happened? The more majorities tried to swoop right in and started legislating Christianity. And that is when they lost the culture war. That is when they started losing voters, when they started trying to legislate their religion the first time around. The First Amendment says Congress shall make...
Okay, hold on a minute. Let's back up here. Okay. I genuinely have no idea what she's talking about. Okay, there's basically no basis for what she's talking about. At what point did Reagan or Bush 2 significantly legislate Christianity or morality to any significant level. As a factual matter, what she's talking, I have absolutely no idea what she's talking about. Hold on. My connection's unstable right now. Let me wait for it to come back because it's actually important. Okay, so let me just wait a second. Hopefully the freaking connection stops being stupid. I swear, this is like we're trying to react to a long debate here, folks. Okay, so bear with us. Okay? It is not doing well with my laptop. But like seriously, I'm actually gonna pause because this is really important. Like what she's saying is not true. So hold on. Come on, you can do it. Come on, connection. Come on. You can come back. You can come back now. Hello. This is so stupid. Hold on. Why is it doing this, dude? Literally, what are you doing? Can you guys let me know how laggy am I right now? Like I do not want to be laggy for this. Like this is actually a very important point. She's so wrong here. So hold on. Can you guys let me know in the chat? I know there's a delay, so I'll wait for you guys to like let me know. But can you guys let me know? All right, you know what? Screw this. Hold on. I'm gonna just change freaking routers again because it's just being stupid. Hold on. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Okay, you guys actually said that you're not getting any lag, which is actually really weird because it says on my end that like the connection was poor and that's why I was like stopping. Shoot, but now I gotta re-import the debate. That's stupid. That is really weird actually, because it said on my end, like it said like you did
It was the first one.
Hold on, let me see where we were right here, right?
Around the First Amendment.
That's where we were. Okay. Is my connection fine? Yeah, Justina's right though. Everyone, don't forget to like the live. Okay, be sure to leave a like, folks. Okay, no lag. All right, we're good. We're good then. Okay. Anyways, what she is saying as a factual matter is just simply not true. Okay. At what point among Reagan or Bush 2 did Republicans begin losing because we try to over legislate morality? Okay, this is I simply have no clue what she's talking about. It's not like the past Republicans were exactly the biggest theocrats ever in the world, okay? But seriously, at what point? What is she talking about? The only point where I could really say that maybe Republicans, like the biggest problem with Republicans, by the way, guys, the biggest problem is not that Republicans and conservatives fought the culture war too hard, okay? The reason why we have society and the electorate the way it is now is because we did not fight the culture war hard enough. And I really don't see any grounds by which she has to even dispute this fact. The problem is not that, oh, George Bush tried to implement too many religious laws. What religious laws exactly? I mean, which laws specifically did George Bush or Ronald Reagan or whoever she's talking about implement that turned away too many people because it was, quote, too socially conservative or too Christian? I really have no clue what she's talking about here. The only laws in which she might be able to try to say, like, this is what it is, did not take place at the presidential level because I really can't think of any points in which where national Republicans really did what she's talking about here. And I really challenge her, and I don't think she will, but I really challenge her to actually point out specific examples as to what she's talking about that past Republican administrations did to over legislate morality that in turn turned away voters. I really don't think evidence of that ever really exists. I challenge her to name like a few different laws that had any significance on the electorate. But you want to say, hey, maybe Republicans at the state level were too theocratic. Even then, that argument really has no basis because if you look since the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, Republicans have actually gained governorships, have gained state legislatures, have gained control over far more states than they've lost. Okay, they've had a huge net gain. And the states that Republicans have lost, you really are hard-pressed to say that the reason they lost is because they became too theocratic or too Christian or too socially conservative. It really just doesn't hold up. Many of the states that Republicans have been lost clearly, like you can clearly trace it to being as a result of some change of the electorate, some change of voting demographics, whether that's changing in the aging of the population, a lot of people leaving the state. Many of these states have changed because of interstate migration, people migrating from other states. In some states, even immigration is the changing factor in the electorate. Regardless, the reason why Republicans have lost the states they have lost is largely due to changes in voting demographics and changes in the electorate, not because Republicans did one or two laws that were too socially conservative or too theocratic to turn everyone off. But even then, if you want to say this is why Republicans are losing, there is no basis, because places, first of all, on the national level, there's simply I simply have no idea what she's talking about. Nobody has any clue what she's talking about. But on the state level, even if you want to go, on the state level, still, Republicans have gained more in America than they've lost by a pretty significant margin over the past few decades. So really, there is no basis for this argument. She has no clue what she's talking about, okay? I'm sorry, ad hominem, I know, but she actually just does not have a single clue what she's talking about. The problem is not that conservatives have fought the culture wars too hard or have been too socially conservative. Again, the problem is that conservatives have not fought the culture wars hard enough, and that's the reason why we're losing. And really, if you want to talk about electoral politics, the electoral politics actually backs this up. So I want to put that out there. I know lib-owned epic style by Vince Dao, but it is simply true. There's no evidence. What is it that George Bush did that was too theocratic? Does anyone know? Can anyone actually go in the chat right now? Can anyone actually tell me what it might be that she's talking about? Again, it does not exist. Exactly. Miles says, I really want her to give an example of what religious legislation that Reagan and Bush put in that lost voters. There just simply is no, literally, what is she talking about? Again, Bush and Reagan and all these past Republican presidents were not exactly the biggest theocrats out there. So really, no clue what she's talking about. I don't think she has a clue what she's talking about herself. Really just trying to manipulate recent electoral history to try to fit her narrative. But it's simply not true. What she is saying is not true. It is not substantiated by any type of electoral data or by what laws do they do? It does not exist. So
says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion or they're prohibiting the free exercise of thereof. So it protects your right to practice your religion as much as it protects mine right to practice mine. This is not a question of religion. If you want to do whatever you want to do in church, that's fine. Go talk to your church elders, go talk to your deacons, exclude anyone you want from your church. But the fact of the matter is that I would really like if the Democrats didn't control everything. And in order for that to happen, we need to win. And that means building the broadest possible coalition of voters that we can. And that's what I think we should do.
Okay, once again, like I've been saying, the way you're going to win is not by creating a more woke coalition than the left, as if that were even possible. It is not possible. The left rules wokeness, okay? So you're not going to be able to do that. But again, let's actually debunk the other thing she's saying. She basically is completely misinterpreting the idea of what separation of church and state is, completely misinterpreting the First Amendment itself. Nowhere does the First Amendment protects the free exercise of religion. It prevents the government from creating a state-run religion. But that is it. It does not mean, the First Amendment does not mean that you cannot have your religion influence your politics or have religious motivation for your political policies, okay? As a matter of fact, the founders strongly wanted society to be moral and religious. The founders wanted people, you can read a lot of Enlightenment writers about this, like Voltaire is someone who said this as a deist himself. He said that while I am not religious myself, I want my wife, my kids, and the rest of society to be religious, because the religious societies, more often than not, are more moral societies than secular societies. And this is absolutely true. And the First Amendment, nowhere in the First Amendment does it say that you cannot have religious motivation within your politics. As a matter of fact, politics at its core, all of our political beliefs are in some way or not, and we might try to say, well, we don't try to legislate morality, but at the end of the day, we all do. We all do. All of our political beliefs are based on some belief in our own morality, okay? So with that being said, wherever her moral beliefs also influence her politics. So that being said, if someone's moral beliefs come from their religion, which many people's do, there is no reason why those moral beliefs should not also dictate your politics. Yes, you should let your religious beliefs influence your politics, okay? You should. What kind of religious person does not let their religious beliefs influence their politics? Okay, that is just a ridiculous idea. That's a ridiculous notion. So again, Total misinterpretation of the First Amendment. And this is something I see liberals misinterpret a lot. That is not what separation of church and state means. Separation of church and state does not mean you cannot have religiously driven motivations and religiously driven influence in politics. That is not what it says at all. And that is fundamentally against what the founders believe. The founders did actually wanted religious influence in politics. So let's be clear about that.
Lauren, that's pretty much opposite of what you brought up and what you were saying. Could you please respond to that?
Yeah. So, Donald Trump, he did do things.
Real quick, this is absolutely true. Again, like we were talking about, where were these past neocon Republican presidents so overly socially conservative? This guy brings up a great point. And he says, Clinton signed a bill that stated that marriage is between a man and a woman. Again, the socially conservative bill. And where are Democrats now? Winning, not losing. So again, her argument absolutely makes no sense. So
that made the church have to make excuses for him. His Globo Homo initiative ended up losing him a significant amount of the Christian vote. And we are the base of this party. We make up a huge portion of this party, a way bigger portion than the libertarian sector of the party, no matter how much they want to tell you.
What did I say? That is true. That is absolutely true.
Compromises is probably a big part of why we lost. We lost the House in 2018. In 2017, absolutely. We had the House, the executive branch, and the Senate, and we still failed on conservative issues. They refused to stand up for life. They still passed a budget that actually made us force Christian taxpayers to fund Planned Parenthood. So every vote lost on social conservatism is, we are significantly more. We are the party that was established in traditional marriage. So I'm curious, when the liberals and the transgenders decided that it was their duty to come and infiltrate our party to make it successful, because we were doing just fine. We started actually losing votes when we started pandering. We lost a significant amount of our base, enough to make an effect and make a dent into the electorate by compromising our values. The only way forward is to stay true to our values that we've always been and established on, and win with them. It's the weakness. People value strength over anything else. And when we started showing weakness and compromise, that's when we started losing. And I don't think that is something that we should continue. I think that we should remain the party of Jesus Christ, the party of life, the party that celebrates family and makes it as easy as possible for Americans to get married and have children. Why would I celebrate a lifestyle that people can't reproduce? You can't reproduce. You just can't. So having families, that is the future of the party. We started losing when we started compromising. Big Tent is a lie.
Lauren, let me jump in there real fast and give Blaire a chance to respond to that.
Can I say really quick? Okay, I know I keep stopping after everything. I just can't help myself from talking. I mean, seriously. No, but honestly, this whole Big Tent talk, folks, let's actually be practical, okay? You guys want to say, hey, we just got to be practical, folks. We got to win elections, okay? The way we win elections is not by appealing to 3% of the U.S. population, which really has not even voted for us, even as much as we tried. Here's the truth, guys. The place where Republicans need to expand is not with the LGBT community. It is not with the Black community. It is with Hispanics. It is with Latinos, for several reasons. Number one, Hispanics are far more open-minded than these groups. Like as an aggregate rule, right? I'm not saying like obviously, you have Republican, Democrat, right? Group people in both groups, but as a general rule, they've shown to be far more electorally malleable than these groups. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, they're also the fastest growing demographic group in America. Number three, they are actually a demographic group that social conservatism has proven it actually appeals to. And why is that? Well, mainly because a lot of Hispanic people in this country, the majority of them are actually very traditionalist. They are actually socially conservative, very Catholic, right? And again, this is the thing. If you want to play identity politics, the place where we should be playing identity politics is like this. This is where we should play the identity politics game, okay? If we're going to do that, which I'm not a fan of doing in general, but if we're going to do it, what we should be doing is not trying to wave an LGBT flag on stage and thinking that's going to work, or say, oh, well, look, we did criminal justice reform, now vote for us, Black community. No, actually, the place where we should be playing identity politics is by, let's just say for an example, picking a Catholic vice president, because the majority of Hispanics, a group that we need to win. And by the way, the only group in 2020 that, despite the Republicans actually trying the least to appeal to, we actually made the biggest gains with Hispanics. You wonder why Trump won Texas so easily? Because he won a huge share of the Hispanic vote that was unprecedented in recent elections for Republicans, okay? And at the same time, you look at the Midwest, right? Midwest is a more Catholic area than a Protestant area. Like a lot of that white working class up there is Catholic. So again, if we're going to play any identity politics, it should look something like maybe, because, you know, generally the Republican Party is more like Protestant centric. The place where we should be playing the identity politics is actually appealing to Catholics with social conservatism. That is how we win elections, not by appealing to 3% of the population and absolutely failing to do that. We should be appealing to Catholics. And by the way, Hispanics who are a very Catholic, probably arguably, you know, Hispanics overall, when you really look at it, may be the most socially conservative group in America. So why do we try to pander to groups that make up a smaller amount of the population and that we really are not that good at pandering at? And by the way, which just don't win us elections in general. That is, if you want to talk about being a Big Tent, that is how we be a Big Tent. I'm streaming. Yes. Sorry. That is how we be a Big Tent. Not by this other type of nonsense that they're trying to basically push. So
sure.
I think the concept of more people infiltrating a party isn't necessarily what has happened. I think that the modern left has shown its hand to such an extent that people are just being extremely turned off by it. Again, being a lifelong Republican voter, I've never had a moment where I entered the party and then had plans to change it from within. I think that every American has a right to vote in any direction that they choose. And I think especially over the next 4 years of the Biden presidency, there's probably going to be a lot more people who are red-pilled, I guess is going to be the term, and wanting to vote, you know, in the opposite direction of how things ended up in November. And I also would say, you know, Trump got the most votes of any sitting president in history. I think that's true, right? That's right. And I think there's a reason for that. I think what I spoke to earlier was the push towards more secularism. And I think that while social conservatives and religious conservatives still voted Trump because it was the right direction, and like you said, they did make a lot of excuses and compromises on their beliefs, I think Trump really, and Trumpism is the future of the party and the future of success. I'm also one of those people that, I don't know, this might have to be edited out for YouTube, but I'm not completely convinced that the election was won by Biden by
hold on. Let's hold on, because I already got a community guideline strike for a video where I didn't really actually expressly say that. So we're going to skip over that, okay, folks, because I can't afford another strike on my channel.
Even though, yeah, Biden won, I still think Trump is the future of the right in general. So,
okay, John, why don't you jump in there?
I think that's correct in that Trump is the future of the Republican Party. But what's interesting about that is that during his first campaign and even his second campaign, he really didn't touch on LGBT issues that much. I mean, you know, he left the flag, I think, at a few events at the advice probably of people like Jared Kushner. But if you look at where his voters actually sit on the political spectrum, they're not
Jared
the
Kushner
right-wing libertarians that a lot of big donors would like the party to be. They're actually basically authoritarian in the center. And so if you look at where they poll on issues such as like gay marriage versus traditional marriage or like transgender bathroom issues, like whatever, they're all like very, I guess you'd say authoritative and conservative in that they're in support of traditional and socially conservative policies. And so that's where the momentum in the party is. And so if you're going to come over and vote for Republicans because you agree with their positions on foreign policy or fiscal policy or what have you, that's all in fine. But what we can't do is start to compromise and say that like you can come over here and we're actually going to pander to you as well and give you positions at CPAC. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people that are trying to join the Republican Party or the conservative movement and then bring to light more of these like LGBT issues are basically showing their hand in that they're not actually conservative. And I'm not speaking about you guys specifically, just like the rhetoric that I deal with online, because fundamentally the idea of like LGBT issues is about the enshrinement of total equality, which is fundamentally not a conservative idea. Conservatives believe in hierarchy and natural law, and the idea that we can have total equality across the board for different types of relationships or different types of marriages, quote unquote, is just fundamentally not a conservative idea. And so if we want to have success in the future as a party, we have to actually like maintain a strong footing on what it actually means to be conservative, which we haven't done in the last 70 years, I'd say.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of tweak this a little bit too, Karlyn.
So true.
As that question that he said, right, is like, this is the question a lot of people ask on the traditional right, is that the right has been defined as being a conservative party, and that has been traditionally what it has been. Now, you say that you identify as a liberal, but you are a Republican. I would say that's more of a new development in the party. I'd say that it is, related to Trumpism, to MAGA, or as Lauren calls it, the Globo Homo movement, which I almost spit out my coffee when she said that. I find all this stuff quite hilarious sometimes. But with that being said, if we're going to take the big tent party approach, right, and we're going to bring in all of these people that are of different
like I said, you guys heard what I said about the real big tent party. That is the real big tent party that I mentioned.
Conservative party conserving, and how is it any different than, let's just say, being a liberal party from 10 years ago?
Well, right now, it's not conserving anything because they don't have any power because they lost elections. But I do want to speak to John's point specifically.
And what did I say? What did I say about how you win elections? Fundamentally the opposite of what she was saying. By the way, I am right and she is wrong. This is not my opinion. This is a matter of pure electoral analysis. Like I gave you guys the breakdown, okay? In 2020, Hispanic voters saved Texas. LGBT voters did not. Black voters did not. Even female, like whatever group you're trying to go after. It is a fact that Hispanic voters saved Texas, okay? And we should give them credit for that. Not some other group. And the way you appeal to the Hispanic community is not, by the way, a very socially conservative community is by, I don't know, being socially conservative. Okay. Like I think people really actually sort of fundamentally misunderstand where the actual country is. Like America is actually a more socially conservative country than a lot of people recognize. Okay. Like, yeah, I would argue, actually, I wouldn't argue. I think it's actually true. We are the most socially conservative country in the entire West. You ask the average American their opinions on a lot of social issues. They might not be a total like Christian theocrat, but you'll find that they're far more socially conservative than the mainstream media and the mainstream culture in our country basically paints our country broad brush to be. Okay. So again, your strategy to win elections is fundamentally flawed. And it is not my opinion that is fundamentally flawed. You really look at how Republicans perform with these different groups. Where do we win? Where do we lose? She's wrong. Okay. She's just straight up wrong. It doesn't go like that.
In that he used the magic word, which is pandering. The left panders to the LGBT movement. Trump did advocate for LGBT policies. He did so by appointing the first openly gay member of the cabinet, which the left likes to forget about all the time. He did support this community. He just didn't do it in a way that was pandering. But again, like I'm a liberal because I believe in individual liberty, individual.
I would actually argue that it was okay. Wait, hold on. So her argument as to pro-LGBT policy was that Trump appointed a gay man to a cabinet position, but she says that's not pandering. I don't really understand like that. It kind of is actually the definition of pandering. Like that is pandering, is like you don't actually support a policy in favor of this. You just make it look like you're doing it by playing. What? That doesn't make that actually is the definition of pandering. Actually,
freedom. I'm very concerned with preserving specifically our First Amendment values and all of the amendments specifically, but the First Amendment's really my jam, which again does not allow for the state to legislate based on one religion's specific values. But if we want to talk about religion, we can talk about a verse from the Bible, which is 1 Timothy 2, verses 1-2, which says, I urge then, first of all, the petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and for those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. And I bring that up because that is the only place in the New Testament that really touches on the relationship of Christians to government. And what does it say? It says they should pray for the people in leadership so that they may live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and holiness. So what does that mean? It means that we should be working on electing a government that allows people to practice whatever religion they want and to live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and holiness. And the only way that we can do that.
Okay, so correct me, guys, because my Christians here, you guys know I'm not the biggest theologian, but considering that the Bible says very specific things about, doesn't it mean by godliness and holiness that you actually have to live in godliness and holiness? Like this argument doesn't make any sense. She says like, oh, everyone live peacefully in godliness and holiness. Notice she puts emphasis on in the godliness and again, again, I'm not gonna tell people what their religion means, but like my Christians in the chat, like can we get like a confirmation on that, because it seems to me pretty obvious what that verse is saying, and it's like kind of the opposite of what she's saying. So someone says fake Christian. No, she's not Christian at all. So oh, I did not mean to do that. Oh shoot, now let's see,
because they don't have any power
but the Supreme Court decided.
Where were we? I think we were here.
Then,
right?
First of all, the petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and for those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. And I bring that up because that is the only place in the New Testament that really touches on the relationship of Christians to government. And what does it say? It says they should pray for the people in leadership so that they may live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and holiness. So what does that mean? It means that we should be working on electing a government that allows people to practice whatever religion they want and to live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and holiness. And the only way that we can do that is by creating a broad coalition of voters who win elections.
You missed that entire part of it.
First and foremost,
holy crap!
Is how
it doesn't even make any
elections.
sense. How we win elections?
I'm going to go to John, because John was sort of laughing during that, and so why are you laughing?
I was humored by the biblical substantiation for having more gay people in government. I just thought that was kind of funny. But no, I don't think that, like, even you push back on what I had said about the pandering with, well, Trump appointed these people and he appointed these people, so he was actually like, serving the interests of the community. It's interesting because, as you noted, the left will still ignore that because they control the narratives and they control the media. And so really, no matter what Trump does to pander to that, however many percent of the, 3% of the voting demographic isn't actually going to serve interests. And I just don't think that the reason Trump didn't win in 2020, assuming the election was totally legitimate, was because he didn't serve the interests of the LGBT community enough. I mean, Trump won in 2016 because of immigration, because of free trade, and because of foreign policy. It wasn't at all because of social issues as it pertains to, like,
John.
The interests of gays and transgenders or what have you. And then as far as the biblical substantiation for it, I mean, it's outlined obviously, and not only in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, like very clearly, that sexual immorality, which under the umbrella would be homosexuality, is wrong. But you seem to be alluding to this idea of like the individual in their private home and things like that when you talk about, people living in a free society to do what they want and not, causing any problems. But what's interesting about that is that was the argument that during the movements in the 1960s and 70s, including the sexual revolution, that allowed a lot of the stuff to have a seat at the table, which ultimately would usurp power away from traditional Americans and traditional social conservatives. And I just think that that's basically a myth, because there's really no such thing as a private individual in the privacy of their own home, because you are one person. And so any actions that you take in your house are ultimately going to reflect you and how you conduct yourself in the real world. And then it's also kind of misleading because people don't want to be confided in the privacy of their own home or what have you, because that almost presupposes that it's something to be ashamed of. And people don't like that. And so what happens is then they start taking to the streets and they start having parades and they start to infiltrate education. They start to infiltrate institutions such as the American
Hold on. Okay, I like how, look in the top left corner. Okay, so you see that Karlyn is doing this like, yeah, little pose. Like, dude, you're being absolutely destroyed, okay? I wouldn't mock John Doyle if I were you, okay? Because he's absolutely wiping the floor with you, okay? Just a little bit of advice. Okay, just a little bit of advice. Exactly. She's twisting the Bible to suit her narrative.
Psychiatry Association. And then what was it? June of 2015, the Supreme Court decided that 5 minutes ago, marriage can be between two men. And now we're here on the back foot with issues like, hey, maybe kids shouldn't be taking prenatal hormones. Or
can we jump into that?
Elijah, I want to jump in there because John just fundamentally misrepresented something I said, because I specifically chose Timothy, 1 Timothy 2 verse 1 and 2, because it has nothing to do with homosexuality. That's why I specifically chose that passage. It has to do with the relationships Christians have with their government. Now, if we want to talk about how the Bible deals with homosexuality, what I would like to focus on is the fact that there are multiple different arguments for different interpretations of the Bible. I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Bible scholar, but I do know that there are multiple.
Then why are you quoting the Bible and pretending to be an expert on it? You just said you're not a Christian, you're not a Bible scholar. Okay, argument dismissed. You don't have to know what you're talking about, okay? And I'm not saying I know what I'm talking about either, because I am not that either, but I'm not out here trying to like tell people what their religion means when I know I probably know more about it than she does, to be honest, because I'm like surrounded by them all day. But anyways, let's keep
different
watching.
Interpretations for that. And instead of getting into the nitty-gritty about what it says in that area, I want to focus on the fact, again,
So she quoted a very specific verse, and then now is saying, instead of getting into the nitty gritty of what that verse actually says, what does she know? Oh my God. Oh my.
And this is an argument for the First Amendment, for religion to not be the dictator of a political movement. If you want to talk about these issues in your church, do talk about them in your church. If you want to exclude people from your church, fine. If you want to exclude gays from getting married in your church, that is a conversation between you and your church elders. This is a conversation about
Okay, as I already explained this, so I'm not going to say it again. But like I said, that's not what the First Amendment means. The First Amendment does not mean you cannot have religious influence in politics. In fact, the founders encouraged us to have religious influence in politics. And like I said, all of our political beliefs, whether we want to admit it or not, we might try to say, well, I don't believe in legislating morality. But ultimately, we're all trying to legislate morality because we all have moral beliefs, and those all drive our political beliefs. And if those moral beliefs come from our religion, that is what it is. But there's no reason why those moral beliefs should not dictate our political beliefs just because they come from our religion versus coming from somewhere else. So,
political movement.
I think that all the arguments against the acceptance of homosexuality within the right are completely secular. It may just so happen to appeal to the base of that.
And that's exactly true too. I mean, I've not actually heard one. Lauren might have made one. I'm not sure, but I don't even think she did. But I know for a fact John has not made one single religious Christian argument in this. Every single argument he's made has been secular, which, again, what the heck, you know?
That movement as Christians, but I think that Lauren and I could recite several arguments that are maybe even more compelling from a completely secular perspective.
Let me.
And I hope you'll do it in church.
Let me jump in.
And I think it's really funny that she's quoting scripture as a liberal, thinking that she can use it against us as Christians. It's like, oh, it doesn't apply to me, but maybe it'll work on you. And guess what? It doesn't work. Playing on our Christian compassion and making us be tolerant and acceptive of all this diversity. You know what that's left us with? Transgender pedophiles on Twitter saying that your daughter asked for it. Your little girl isn't actually a princess. She asked for it when I abuse her. That is where we're at. So you're throwing scripture at me as a liberal is not going to work. You cannot play the Christian compassion card with us anymore. We are taking a stand for social conservatism because it matters. Social issues matter, and using God's word and manipulating it to try to get Christians to agree with you is absolutely subversive. And that's what we're struggling with in our party is subverters. How many kids saw Blaire White, giving one of her videos? I know Trump is a cash cow. I know people love to talk about him to get their popularity, but how many children saw her and looked at her and said, you know what, she looks really good. I could do that too, and started transitioning. This is about the children. They are coming for our kids, and we are at a point now where we're going to have to take a stand. Will the party go the way of the LGBTQ? Will the party, we already have a transgender man, woman, I don't know, in California running the Federation for Republican Women. Are we going to let this stand, or are we going to choose to stay with the nuclear family and support the nuclear family? Because from what I've seen from these LGBTQ activists, such as Richard Grenell, who's an absolute pervert, he refuses to stand up for transgenders in the military, against transgenders in the military. He refuses to stand and make a public statement that, hey, men shouldn't be in women's bathrooms. That's because they're bought, sold, and paid for by these LGBT donors who have seen an opportunity. Trump was a cash cow. He was. If you talk about him and if you are had a different look or whatever, people would throw themselves at you because it's like, oh, look how inclusive we are, but we're sacrificing everything. And when it comes down to it, I choose preserving the life of little children who are 15% of them are growing up identifying as LGBTQ and transgender. And we should not be giving a spotlight to or a platform to people who operate in a lifestyle where 40% of them end up attempting suicide, eventually. 1 in 4 children growing up struggling with LGBTQ gender dysphoria end up with depression, drug abuse. I think it's 80% of men have a higher risk of HIV. Why would I support that lifestyle? Why would I even make excuses for that lifestyle or try to use?
I want to give Blaire a chance to respond to your statements real fast, because I know Blaire has a hard out. We haven't heard from Blaire. Just on the statement of Lauren said, Lauren is talking about, the subversion in the party, the idea that your choice
Well,
that you're transitioning,
before I just want to specifically address what Lauren said about children maybe watching my YouTube videos and thinking that they can be like me or transition or whatever. I don't really know how much you know about me, but I'm probably the most vocal anti-children transitioning person on the internet. It's what I'm.
Right.
I let you speak.
The best thing you can do for us is grow out your mustache and tell people not to live like you. That is the best thing that you can do to help us, because you are not helping.
Christ love wafting off Lauren.
See, this is what I was talking about. Like, this is why I said I'm 100% on the John Doyle train with this debate. Lauren, what she's saying for the most part, like, I understand, but you gotta avoid the ad hominem a little bit, okay? Like, I get it. She's trying to make content and all that, but it's like, in this context, like, I think since we're conservatives debating, well, I guess other right-wingers, I won't say other conservatives, but other right-wingers trying to work this stuff out, I think it is a little bit more constructive to have actually like be civil about this stuff. Okay. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, actually, to be honest, personally, I would actually like to see John Doyle and Blaire White have this debate, because it seems to me that like they're a little bit more, they're far more like level-headed and can actually talk about this stuff honestly without being like super ridiculously over emotional and, like what we're seeing on the top end of things. Although I think I want to see John debate Karlyn, because I just feel like that would be funny and John would just dunk on her. But actually, for the constructive debate, like, you got to avoid that hominem, okay? Like, we're not on CNN with a 5-minute segment just trying to like own the libs or nuke the left. Like, I think you're trying to have an actually productive discussion here. Avoid the ad hominem, okay? And that's why I said I'm on the John Doyle train in this debate, because I think he really was able to chill out about it. Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
Christ love.
Go at it, guys.
I think actually to close on the biblical point, the first thing I did want to say is the vindication of Lauren's point comes very clearly in the fact that we have a liberal on here who is personally a liberal and ideologically a liberal, though feels as though she can manifest that by voting for Republicans. And so I think that really speaks to how far our party has deviated in the last 50 years, to where now there are people who are personally liberal who feel as though their views can be reflected by voting for Republicans. And to close on the biblical topic, there's this misconception that like Jesus just said that we should be like vaguely nice to each other. As far as judgment goes, we are called as Christians not to judge people individually. Like, we cannot look at you and make a moral declaration like you are good or you are bad. That's not our position. However, we are called quite explicitly to judge the actions of people so as to maintain a moral and civilized society. And so we need to keep that social pressure on people, like, you actually can't behave in this way or that way. And that's how we maintain a civilized and virtuous society.
See, yeah, that's throughout the Bible. That's what I agree with. Yeah.
Okay, Blaire, can you please respond?
All right, well, I never finished my point, so I would just like to say, as I said earlier, whether anyone on this panel likes it or wants to acknowledge it, there is a really huge chunk of LGBT people who are very much against ideas like children transitioning, like trans women in biological women's sports, and all of the ideas that are, hot talking points, but they're very real at the same time. So I don't think many kids would look at my YouTube videos and want to do anything like me, because I explicitly have been very known for saying that it's not a glamorous lifestyle, that it's difficult, and that children shouldn't be allowed to transition because it can often be a mistake that really damages their life. So I don't know. I just felt like that was a false premise. And again, I would like to agree with Karlyn on the sense.
It wasn't a false premise. Like I said, if you want to help us, tell people not to live like you.
That people would watch my videos and come to that conclusion when I say not to, and I advocate against it. I think that there are a lot of trans people online that you could argue, maybe someone looks at their videos, children, and wants to do a certain thing, but I'm very much against it. If anything, people who support children transitioning or kids who want to transition hate me. So I also would like to say,
it's normal. That's normal. That's not nothing.
I do agree with Karlyn in the sense that, if you guys do want to wield power and enact the socially conservative changes that you want, you do have to win elections, and telling people that they don't have a place to vote in your direction or that they don't have a place in your party isn't the way to win elections. So I guess if the topic is the future of the right, I think the future of the right's already settled. It's Trump and that's not an ideology that tells people they're not allowed to come over. If anything, it's an ideology that welcomes people to come over. So,
okay, I don't think this is a debate of whether or not like someone like Blaire White can't go vote Republican. It's like, yeah, we appreciate that you're voting Republican. Like, cool, great. I think the debate is where like I've been saying, like, what should the Republican Party be focusing on? Where should the conservative movement be focusing its resources? Now, if Blaire White wants to get on YouTube and go, like, I guess, I don't know, try to win over other members of the LGBT community, cool, go ahead, do that. But it is not something that the Republican Party should be spending its time on. Not only is this group we're talking about only make up 3% of the U.S. population, which is literally nothing, but Republican attempts to appeal to this community have failed, and they have alienated a large number of the actual base that Republicans do need to win, which is Protestant and Catholic Christians, both white and Hispanic, and, you know, even some could even argue some people in the Black community and in Asians too, like just in general. It is not a worthwhile expenditure for Republicans to be spending this much time on a community that they have, frankly, completely failed at remotely being able to win over. At the cost, especially at the expense of alienating so many people that they actually do need to win. So if you want to talk about winning elections, like I said, that is not the way to go. And I feel like I've kind of destroyed this like time and time and again, but it is true. So I think it needs emphasis.
Okay,
it's
so
kind of already over, actually.
Before we jump any further, I want to let you guys know something. It's very important. As you can see, a lot of people in this country disagree right now. We cannot seem to come to common ground on a lot of things, which is why people see the instability.
All right, here's another sponsorship. Sorry, Elijah. Like I know you're deplatformed, but we're focusing on this thing. Okay, we're focusing on the debate here, folks.
That's
okay?
preparewithelijah.com to get your savings and get your food today. Okay, so
let's start a Discord server. We do have a Discord server. Can I get a moderator to put it in the chat, please? We do have a Discord server. If we don't have moderators in the chat, someone just DM me and I'll like give it to you.
So let's jump into this. You're saying it's the future is this Trumpianism, and John wanted to respond to that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, as we talked about earlier with where the people who voted for Trump, that coalition, sit on the political spectrum, Trump may or may not have touched on this issue either side very much, but they still fundamentally sit at the center economically and authoritatively socially. And so if you look at where those people poll on issues pertaining to, you know, LGBT issues, they're basically socially conservative. And so maybe Trump didn't come out and support those or be as against those as he should have been to really like wheel those people in. But basically it's ambivalent as far as that's concerned. And so what we do know is that Trump taking time to address those issues, thinking he's going to win those people over, hasn't actually worked. I mean, even his support in 2016 or 2020 with LGBT people was not like statistically significant, nor was there a statistically significant improvement. And so when any political operation is happening, you know, you have a certain volume of discussion and resources that you can expend on different things. And so if you're going to waste those resources, which it is a waste on people who aren't going to vote for you anyway, because they've basically been brainwashed into hating you because we don't control the narratives. And Bro,
me and John are literally the same person. Like, that's literally what I just said. And now he said it too. Dude, symbiosis. We're going to merge and become the same person. Okay. Literally. Just wait.
Don't control the institutions. The place that you want to be pouring those resources into would be on the issues
because he's epic,
that you won the election based on in the first place, which would be immigration, which would be free trade, and which would be foreign policy. It has very little to do with appealing to different interest groups and hoping that they come over, whether that's you know, Black people or gay people or transgender people. These are all things that Jared Kushner lobbied for because he thought that they would be effective in creating the sort of big tent movement, which I mean, obviously didn't help him too much throughout the administration.
It did not. It did not.
Nope. He was elected in the first place anyways. Because if you look, even demographically, the people who are most likely to vote for Trump are also most likely to be socially conservative. So it's very clear that if we want to keep Trumpism going,
we're the same person. I'm telling you.
And the way to do that
we always say
like this, thinking
the exact same thing.
Issues that got him into power in the first place. And then when we take the country back, then, you know, we can have these other debates once we actually wield power. But right now we're just getting totally crushed. So we don't have time to waste resources on anything that hasn't been proven to be effective.
Karlyn?
So true.
Blaire has her hand up. Blaire has talked less.
I was just going to say, I actually completely agree with John that pandering to minority groups definitely didn't do Trump any favors. I think that the media completely controls the narratives. It doesn't matter. He could save, like, I don't know, a little person of color who's also trans out of a burning building and the media would not care. But that's all the more reason to, I don't think you have to pander. I think you just don't have to try to exclude people. I think that just loses votes. And so, again, it just goes back to, you guys can't wield any of this power you say you want to wield if you're not going to win elections. You're just not. And I don't know. I just think it's just kind of silly to go on about this argument that certain people need to be excluded, because all it's doing is telling people not to vote for you.
I actually agree with Blaire.
If it keeps.
But okay, like I said, it's not about exclusion. We're not telling Blaire White that she can't support Trump or she can't be a Republican or whatever. What we're saying is that, you know, the Republican Party has a limited amount of time that they can spend in money and resources and all that stuff on certain groups. The question is, what groups should they be doing that to? What groups should they be trying to appeal to? What should the messaging be? And I think she's conflating being excluded versus simply not being the focus of the messaging. Okay, so I think that's
going back to like, we need to win, saying you can't vote for us or you don't have a place in the party isn't,
not sure who said that.
I don't see the winning tactic of that. I mean, I don't think that the social conservative movement is going to necessarily grow stronger to the point where you wouldn't need. And also what you said about LGBT votes not having a statistical raise, I believe they did double. Obviously, it's still a small community, but it did double from 2016. So clearly there is a shift happening. I think it was 14% in 2016 and probably like 1% every other election before that. And it was like 28% in 2020. So yeah.
Okay, still though, does she hear herself? 28%, not even close to a majority. And when we talk about 3% of the US population, simply not a worthwhile demographic group to be going after. Like I said, you want to expand the party, you got to go after Hispanics, and not liberal Hispanics. I'm talking about socially conservative Hispanics that actually believe in a lot of the same things, you know, different denomination of Christianity, but still fundamentally believe in a lot of the same things that traditional Bible Belt Protestant Christian base believes in. That's how you expand the tent. That's how you expand the base. And that is a way to expand the base that has actually been proven to be effective, because you can actually see visibly Hispanics hopping over to the Republican Party, and you can see it visibly, measurably making a statistically significant difference in states like Florida and Texas. Why do you think Florida went like, how much did Trump win it by? Like, was that like 3-4 points? Huge margin for the state of Florida. Florida's always a really close state. Why do you think that was? Big reason is because, you know, down in Miami, the Cubans jumped ship massively. The Texas, okay? I think someone was telling me this. I don't remember none of this is true, but you guys might not know this, had the traditional white voter turnout that just been it, like had Hispanics not made the difference in the election, Texas would have only gone to Trump this past year by 1 point. Okay, 1 point. Instead, it went to Trump by almost 6 points. And the reason is because Hispanic voters down in South Texas actually made the difference. Okay, they saved Texas. Okay, they did. And that is the only group. See, this is what I don't understand. That is the only group where we actually see Republicans and conservatives making measurable gains to. And yet at the same time, it is the group that we are spending the least amount of time, the least amount of focusing on the messaging towards. And when we do message towards Hispanics, it's always like, oh, well, we're going to compromise on immigration or something, like just something cheap and pandering and stupid, rather than actually getting to the core of the religious and the culturally conservative beliefs of many Hispanic people. I don't understand who's running the GOP. I don't really understand why they have not noticed, they have not realized this. But when you really look at it, Hispanics are making the difference. And like Arizona is another state where we're still struggling a little bit with the Hispanic vote. We are making some gains. But again, you look at Arizona. If we were to win the Hispanic vote, it would not be a contest. Arizona would go red again every single time. And the same is even true of Nevada. This is the group that we'd be going after. Not 3% of the U.S. population, not even 13%. How about the fastest growing demographic group in America that has actually proven to be electorally effective for Republicans, okay?
Yeah, you know, minority groups don't necessarily win elections now. Over time, they very well could.
Can I just let me move to Lauren?
900,000 votes. Yeah. 900,000 people nationally came out from the LGBTQ community and voted for President Trump. We've done the math. It was absolutely not beneficial for all the money we spent when we could have been going after the working class, the white working class, the Christian working class,
I do agree.
Religiously, we spent way too many resources.
Yeah, that's true.
So the lie that we have to be a big tent in order to win, and we have to be inclusive. You know, like I said, there is a party for free market capitalism and transgenderism and liberalism. That's called the Libertarian Party. Why don't you join them? We do not need you. You are doing nothing but hurting us. You are hurting the Christian vote by creating a platform for yourself saying, this is Trumpism. This is Trumpism. You know, we should have never glorified this in the first place. While we are losing everything on social issues, we lose.
See, I don't necessarily. So I think it's not that like Blaire White has her YouTube channel. Like that's not the problem. I think the problem it more lies into what the actual Republican mainstream organizations, what the Republican campaigns, what they are promoting. So that's a little bit like, I think we're kind of talking past each other there, but that is more what I see the issue being. Like I said, if Blaire White sees it as her initiative to go and try to win the LGBT vote, like go ahead, but I don't think it's what national Republicans and mainstream organizations should be spending their time and resources on. That's what I believe.
Every single time, you know, we are influencing, you know, public opinion matters, and we are influencing our own elected officials to not take a stand on issues such as transgenderism, LGBTQ education, drag queen story hour. They are saying nothing. We have created a cowardly elected class within our party, you know, so it is not helping us. There is absolutely no electoral benefit. There's no social benefit, you know, and if you, like I said, if you are a gunslinging, freedom-loving person, absolutely, we'd love to have you come vote for us. But should you be having a say in influencing the party? Should you have an opinion that, you know, like Jared Kushner was the one who did push the LGBTQ agenda, mass migration. And those were the
Jared Kushner, by the way, guys, has probably been the greatest detriment to the Trump administration of any single advisor within his administration. He has single-handedly pushed. He's the one who's really been pushing Trump to try this whole big tent, but not like a real big tent, not like a, you know, hey, we have these socially conservative values that we realize that a lot of Americans actually agree with. Okay. No, the big tent they've been trying to push is like, oh, look at us. We're woke. Oh, look at us. We did criminal justice reform. Oh, look at us. We have LGBT members of our cabinet. That's cheap pandering. It does not work. The left is always better at it than we are, and it has not really been proven to give us any type of benefit. All it has done is really actually alienated a lot of people that we actually need to win the elections. And Mary says Blaire is handling this gracefully. If I were in a place, I'd be so pissed. Like I said, I appreciate that about Blaire White is that, you know, she's I think she's been calm, level-headed throughout this debate. Obviously, I pushed back on a lot of the things she said, but I will give her credit for that. I don't give John credit for that. And I think the top two. What is the person on the? Is that a guy or okay? The top two individuals could work on that a little bit. So
things that, you know, mass migration was something that Trump addressed in 2016. That's.
By the way, guys, while we're on it, be sure to leave a like on the video because that helps the algorithm. Okay, so be sure to leave a like. Don't forget that.
What got the white working class out to vote for him? You know, so there are plenty of votes out there for us to get, but it doesn't come with compromising. We don't get those 15 million unregistered Christian voters to get them registered to vote and out to vote for us by glorifying the LGBT community.
Congress shall make no law.
Electorally speaking, she's right.
Respecting an establishment of religion. I don't know why Lauren's so against the First Amendment. I think the First Amendment's pretty great. I also think the Second Amendment.
Again, because she's so this dude, Karlyn is, oh my God. Again, that is not, that literally just not what the First Amendment means at all. Okay. The First Amendment does not, what did she say? I think so what Lauren just said is that conservatives and Republicans should try to appeal to Christians more. Okay. Karlyn responded by saying that that's a violation of the First Amendment. What? That doesn't even make any sense. Like I said, nowhere in the First Amendment says that you can't try to appeal to religious groups to win votes. What? Like, where is that in the First Amendment? That's not what the First Amendment says. The First Amendment says, you know, you can't infringe on people's right to practice their religion and that you can't create a state-established religion. That's really all that the First Amendment says on religion. It does not say you can't try to appeal to Christian voters. What is she even talking about? No idea. Like, what does that even mean? Low IQ, okay? I'm sorry. I know I criticized ad hominem, okay? But like, seriously, she doesn't know what she's talking about, okay? And that's
it's pretty great too, because it protects the first. And these are the things that we should actually be conserving, and we can't do that if we can't win elections. The fact of the matter is, Lauren, that every single problem.
I'm not going to go over it. If you guys are just hopped on the stream, you guys go over it again. But again, I've like repeatedly explained why her strategy to win elections is fundamentally flawed. This is not based on my opinion. This is based on data, and why becoming more socially liberal actually does not help the Republican Party win more votes to any substantial level, contrary to what a lot of people seem to think. Okay, so you guys can rewind if you want to hear the full explanation as to that. But again, wrong. She's wrong.
You have with the LGBT movement right now, from giving hormones to kids, medical transition, whatever. This was all caused by the right losing the culture war 30 years ago when they tried to legislate their religion. That is
again, folks. Okay, we didn't talk about this a lot on the street. I know we had that one moment, but again, she is talking about something that does not exist. There's no point 30 years ago or whatever she's saying where conservatives pushed too hard on the culture war and their overly theocratic approach to things somehow made us lose voters and made us lose the culture war. No, every conservative agrees on this because it's true. The reason why conservatives lost the culture war is because conservatives did not fight the culture war, okay? 30 years ago, you had people like Reagan and Bush and like that sort of thinking of the party not do enough to do something about the decline of culture, the liberalization of culture, the decline of society. And that in turn is the reason why conservatives lost the culture war. Again, I would challenge her. She's going to fail to explain any policy. I would challenge her to actually name the policy or the approach or the Republican administration supposedly that actually did this. It actually somehow was too theocratic, because when I think of Reagan, when I think of Bush, when I think of Bush too, I really can't name a single time with one single policy where it's like, oh, that was a little bit too overly theocratic. Again, the only argument that she could possibly have to this is state level, right? On the state level, some Republican states were too socially conservative or theocratic, whatever. But even then, once again, as I will go over, that clearly has not hurt Republicans, because in the past 30 to 50 years, Republicans have had a net gain of far more states than they've lost. Okay. Way more. You look at the map now, and obviously like states are, there's different sizes. That's why Democrats still dominate. But in terms of controlling governorships and in terms of controlling state legislatures, Republicans have tightened their grip and have won far more state legislatures than they've lost. And once again, folks, the states that Republicans have lost, really, you'd really be hard pressed to actually argue that the reason Republicans lost states like Colorado or Nevada, or a lot of those states that used to kind of lean a little bit Republican or lean swing and are now deep blue, more harder blue, more Democratic states, you'd be hard pressed to actually prove to any degree that the reason Republicans lost those states was because they were too Christian or too theocratic or whatever. That's just simply not true. In fact, the reason why Republicans have lost a lot of these states can be pinned on measurable changes in the electorate, whether that's a bunch of people moving out from California to Colorado, right, and Nevada. That is true. Mainly, the main thing that has turned states like Colorado and Nevada blue is mass migration from California. Some degree of immigration had an effect, but it is largely true. It's just California, right? And you look at a state like Virginia, right? A state like Virginia, again, the changes on the state are because of the changes of the voting demographics of the state. It is not like you have the same type of voting demographics in that state and then magically all of a sudden, because, I don't know, someone passed the bill that was too pro-life or something, that was when Virginia flipped to the Democrats. That is simply not true. No. There has been a vast change in the voting demographics of Virginia. A lot of that is due to the D.C. suburbs and the D.C. capital, cap by capital, I mean like human capital, massively expanding into the state of Virginia, right? And some degree of that also has to do with like just changing demographics in general in the state. But you combine the two and you can measurably see that is the reason why Virginia, a once Republican state, is now a Democrat state. It has absolutely nothing to do with some type of pro-life bill or overly religious bill or prayer in schools or whatever. It is because of a measurable change in electoral demographics. And this is basically true of every single state that Republicans have lost. It is not because of some overly theocratic policy. It is because of voting demographics. And if you want to say in all the states where you've seen like increasingly more socially conservative policy, whether that's states like Louisiana, I know Georgia did a heartbeat bill, you have South Carolina, these states are not flipping to the Democrats. It's just not happening. So it's really wrong. She's wrong.
That's why we're currently experiencing this today. The only way to come back and conserve whatever it is you want to conserve is by winning elections. And the fact of the matter is, it's not just people like Blaire who vote based on LGBT issues. I am straight as an arrow. I'm married to a dude. Between the two of us, I'm the one that's actually married with the family. And so I will say that I absolutely will not vote for a party that treats LGBT people like they are subhuman. I won't do it. Part of the reason that Trump won my vote is because he does not care.
What is she talking about?
He doesn't promote sexualities.
Whatever.
Okay, so first of all, you're using issues again on me that you don't apply for yourself. So Dr. Carl here was the first one to celebrate me being
Karlyn.
banned from Twitter. She was so excited to see that my voice had been silenced. So freedom of speech for thee, but not for me. Absolutely. So, disregard.
Okay, so this is true. So basically, Lauren Witzke, I believe she actually got banned from Twitter for, I think she called someone who was tweeting something pedophilic, like the person was basically a pedophile, was a pedophile, not basically a pedophile, was a pedophile. And she called them demonic and got banned from Twitter for that. And yeah, it is true that Karlyn over here actually celebrated her deplatforming, which again, it's like, wait a minute, she talked all about the First Amendment and not actually like what the First Amendment says, but I guess you could say, oh, it was the spirit of First Amendment she was talking about. And yet here she is celebrating the deplatforming of a further right, more theocratic, more Christian conservative. Well, what the hell are you talking about first? What are you talking about free speech? Okay, what do you know about free speech? Like this is the liberal thinking in her. It's like free speech for everyone except those I disagree with, like, not actually free speech. You can see that clearly.
That opinion.
Well, I celebrated that you were banned on Twitter because you repeatedly tweeted that my husband should be deported, Lauren. And
he's
now
an illegal
I'm
alien.
Thrilled. No, he's not. He has a permanent green card. I am now thrilled that I don't have to hear you call for my husband to be deported.
Okay, I like this. So watch. Okay, so as the two on the top like argue, you can see the boys, the men, and I think I heard Elijah laughing over here too. Just cracking up as these two just have like a totally uncivil, mudslinging back and forth at each other. Like, again, I would actually like to see a debate between the two, like White and John Doyle. Like, yeah, it is kind of entertaining to watch all this mudslinging, but I actually kind of would like to hear a genuine discussion on this because it is actually an important discussion we have to have with ourselves as to our own identity. And it's being a little bit distracted here by, some of the mudslinging, but I guess it is entertaining. Okay, I will say it is entertaining, but it is not the most productive.
On Twitter, who has had a permanent green card for the last 6 years.
He came into our country illegally. He broke our laws. He did not do it.
See, what did I say? The boy, you're just laughing. The boys are laughing. The woman, is Karlyn a woman? I don't. Okay, the boys are laughing. The female, I don't know, are just arguing. And this is, I love this. And Blaire White is kind of just like, what the hell? And these two are just like cracking up. I just get a kick out of it. I think it's kind of funny.
An American, how lucky is he?
Go back. He has to go back. I'm sorry,
no, he doesn't, honey. That's not how laws work. It's not how laws work. I'm sorry. I have a husband and you don't, Lauren. I'm sorry. I love
women.
John Doyle. This man just says, I love women. Oh my god. Oh my god.
You're welcome.
Anyone respond? You guys can keep going.
What did I say, dude? The boys. The boys are just laughing it up while these two go at it.
Keep going. Blaire's like,
you want me to keep going? Oh, well,
it is petty. Yeah, like Justine is right. On both sides. Both of them are just being extremely petty with each other. Again, overly emotional, not a lot of substance. Again, good for TV, bad for actual substantive debate, which is what we're trying to have here, right? So, at least on our own side.
I'm in early recovery. So, I've only been clean 3 years. Myself getting in toxic relationships is what kept, me.
All right, hold on. I got to switch out the battery in my camera. I'm going to keep playing, but I'll probably disappear for a few seconds. Be back.
Relapsing. So, I'm just doing it with wisdom this time. I'm dating. But my intention is to get married and have children eventually, but I certainly will not be marrying an illegal alien to give him his green card. So, I hopefully will find an American man. I will find an American man
you'll be pleased to know we had several interviews with ICE, and they blessed our marriage.
Really? Even though he was illegal and didn't come the right way?
Has a permanent green card, honey. Permanent green
Wow,
card.
we're gonna have to reinvestigate ICE.
Let's go to Blaire.
But you know what? Here's the thing though. Like, we can keep talking about my husband all she wants to talk about him, but the fact of the matter is, my husband ain't gonna win us an election. Votes are going to win us elections. I don't know why we're so focused on these issues
and you're
that are driving people away from voting for things like conserving the First Amendment.
Dude, I would actually really love to have a debate with Karlyn about how Republicans win elections, because she's clearly wrong. I mean, she's fundamentally wrong. Total misunderstanding of like electoral politics right here. Like I challenge, okay, I'm pretty sure she'll never respond to me, but I actually would like to challenge Karlyn to debate, not so much on this issue itself. I would actually like to challenge her on the debate of like her idea of how Republicans win elections, okay? Because she is so wrong. She's fundamentally wrong. What she is saying is not backed up by data, not backed by any hard proof, okay? So, you know, I would actually like to really debate with her on this.
Conserving the Second Amendment. That's really what I would like to have the conversation
You don't even
about.
like the First Amendment. You don't even like it. So why are you
Blaire wanted to chime in.
defending it
Let's
when you
cut.
don't
I'm
like
going to
it?
cut you guys off. I'm
Make
cutting
that
Blaire. I want to Blaire. Let me hear what you're going to say.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that there's a little bit of a tit for tat here, but I will say, Lauren,
a little.
You said that Karlyn was celebrating you being deplatformed. I did see that, and I personally disagree with Karlyn for doing that. I don't like people being banned off Twitter.
Base. Thank you, Blaire.
But I will say, you opened this up with saying that I shouldn't be given a platform and that I shouldn't have say in the party, or So I think there's a little bit to go around. I think everyone should probably just respect each other a little bit more.
No, I didn't say you should be deplatformed from your voice. I was saying that you should not have a platform within a party who stands for traditional marriage, because that is just opposing itself. You know, it makes no sense. Also, when you cannot deny that your people are the ones that are reading dressed in drag to kids at our taxpayers' expense. And I'm just curious, to what extent am I going to be forced to participate in your fetish or delusion while our children are being targeted for pedophilia openly, So
See, here's what I'm talking about. Like when I say like I think John approached this better than Lauren. Lauren is, I understand what she's saying, but the way she's presenting it is kind of a slippery slope fallacy, right? And it's like, I wouldn't so much of a fallacy necessarily in practice, because it's like, it is true that the slippery slope clearly is real, because we've seen it with a lot of these issues, but she needs to articulate that aspect of it. And I feel like that's why she's not using it. And so it becomes a slippery slope where it's like, because you are gay, at least a drag queen story hour, that is generally considered to be a logical fallacy. Now, John, I think, articulated it later at a different point in this debate why it is that it leads to that, and why it's actually not a fallacy. And that's why I'm like, John is like my man on this. But Lauren, like, you got to articulate that, or else you're kind of just throwing out something that isn't actually like logical. So
no, I don't want to give a platform to that lifestyle. And those are your people.
Here's the thing. There is.
Go ahead, Blaire. Sorry.
Okay. There is. And I think this maybe is something that you might not be aware of, or people who are not, closer to the LGBT community, knowing the inner workings, that there's actually a huge divide from people who.
It doesn't matter. It's a package deal. It all comes together.
I disagree. I think that there's a huge divide within the community, as from people who do support things like Drag Queen Story Hour. One of the things I've been very vocal against children transitioning. So I don't think it's a monolith. I don't think any group is a monolith. The same way that the right wing is not a monolith of just people who believe, in a biblical, definition of conservatism, people who don't. I think that there's a really big missed opportunity for the right, in the sense that I think LGBT people are actually the best warriors against gender ideology. And and seeing children being read to by half-naked drag queens and children going under hormone therapy at 12, I think that people who are from that community coming and speaking out against it do a lot better of a job at trying to stop it than people who are on the outside. Because at the end of the day, Lauren, you could make it part of your platform to be against those things, and even Karlyn, you guys could talk about it, but it's simply the way it works. It's never going to be heard as loud as someone like myself or a gay person coming out of the community. And so I think that when you have, I would venture to say, the majority of LGBT people who disagree with those things, when they feel like they can't speak out against it, because what happens is the right will say, okay, you can speak out against it, but you still get no voice in the party. You're still disgusting. You're still a freak. They don't want to, then they end up staying on the left. And it makes it appear as though all of us agree with those things. But in reality, oftentimes we feel politically homeless, like we don't have a voice over here. And we have to pretend to be leftists or pretend to be along with these things because we don't have a political home.
Well,
so again, I think, so I just want to, 1 second, just one last thing. So again, I think just in general, the overall point of what I think is that you don't benefit from turning people off from voting for you. You just don't.
Okay, so let's break that down. I know Lauren's gonna do it, but she's probably just gonna like attack Blaire White, and then it's like, okay, Blaire White makes what is like a reasonable argument, like it seems to make sense. The problem I see with it though is that they always say this, right? I see a lot of people say this, but the problem is that the Overton we have seen in practice. Okay, so this is why I'm not just making a slippery slope fallacy. I'm saying like this has been observable throughout practice of recent American history, is that you can say this, but the problem is the Overton window continues to shift over and over, even more and more radically, right? So at first, it's like just a regular gay person speaking out against whatever it is, right? But as it goes further, it just becomes more and more radical. And then, yeah, there are these people like trying to speak out against it. But the problem is they don't actually do anything to stop the Overton window from shifting. And next thing you know, you have the most radical extreme of it becoming the norm. And then a slightly less radical extreme of it being the one that speaks up against it. And it's like, at some point, you have to actually get the Overton window to stop shifting. And I think that's the problem that we're not seeing. And this is why you hear a lot of conservatives say like, well, conservatives now are just the liberals of 20 years ago. And that the reason why that's true is because the Overton window just keeps on shifting and shifting, and we keep playing defense. Whereas there's a point where we're going to have to actually say, no, this has to stop, right? This has to be ended, not just like, oh, we try to weekly, just, oh, well, you know, I'm just saying there has to be a dividing line at some point, and think that that's the reason why Blaire White's idea has not worked in practice, is because it just seems to me that it increasingly just becomes the Overton window shifts more and more dramatically radical, and we just play defense every single time. We're like, okay, well, let's use this person who is slightly less radical to stop the current radical, and it just doesn't work because it just keeps on moving. At some point, you have to actually make a hardline stand against it, and you know, it's not happening, obviously. So,
okay, well, listen, here's the deal: your whole lifestyle really opens the door to everything that you claim to stand against. Now, I'm not really sure if you really stand against the transitioning of children or drag queen story hour, or if it's just public opinion is against you, or if public opinion is against you because public opinion matters. You know, I don't really know what's really in your heart, but when you walk out a lifestyle that introduces that to children, I mean, it's there. It is your people. It is part of, you know, that's part of the package deal. It is spearheaded by the LGBTQ movement. Just because you take a normal stance on something, everybody should be opposed to grown men going into young girls' locker rooms or bathrooms. You know, that doesn't make you special. It makes you normal. You know, and just because you dress up as a woman does not mean that you have a special opinion on something that everybody should oppose.
I'm not claiming to be special. I'm just a person that shares my opinions online. And what I'm just trying to tell you is that it's a lot more people than you think within the community, the LGBT community, that agree with me and think the exact same way, not the exact same way, but on the more radical ideas like children, everything to do with children.
It's all the same.
I mean, you can sit here and you can insist that it's a monolith and insist that we all think that way and that it is a package deal, but it's really not, especially considering gender ideology and how it has manifested now and taken over culture and been popularized. It started it started well after the existence and acknowledgement of gay people or transgender people. Transgenderism used to be a purely medical issue that was treated on a purely medical basis. Gender ideology that we see on college campuses and that oftentimes it's communists spreading it, that came much, much later. So I think that they are two separate things.
Okay, so let me I have to move the conversation on because I know that Blaire again has a hard out. And so I kind of want to give Karlyn and John a chance to respond to this. So as we're wrapping this up with the big tent, with the idea of the place with gays. I don't want to get your opinion wrong, Lauren. So if you can give me a brief response to this, do you believe that we should exclude the LGBT influence from the right wing and reestablish sort of like a Christian party? Can you give me your summary in under a minute?
Yeah, so certainly. In conclusion, the LGBTQ community has no platform, should have no influence on the party. Was based on traditional marriage. Opposing gay marriage still is our platform. That hasn't changed. But we are going to have to vote on it again soon. You know, are we going to be the party moving forward? Are we going to be the party that compromises on our values that got us this far? Or are we going to stand firm on issues like family, restoring the nuclear family, getting dads back into the home, legalizing conversion therapy?
That would really be something, huh?
Parental rights, where children now can't even go to get therapy if they choose to change their mind while struggling with gender dysphoria. You know, the only path forward with this LGBTQ agenda is stripping parents of their rights. Parents are being villainized for not wanting to transition their children. They're having their children taken away from them. You know, so it is not a lifestyle that should be included. The Republican Party, it's not something we need either. Electorally, it hurts us.
Okay, Lauren, and then
last
Karlyn,
part,
let me give you
exactly what I've
under
been
a minute.
saying,
Can you wrap up your conclusion on this as well?
Yeah, this is about attracting as many people to the movement as we possibly can. I would like everyone who believes in freedom of speech.
I'm not going to respond to that because I've done it a million times, and I believe you guys would agree. I've just absolutely wrecked that whole train of thought. So we'll just let her go this time. Okay.
Who believes in protecting the Second Amendment, who believes in protecting all our individual liberties to come to the movement. And I think it's rather ironic that people like Lauren talk about treasuring the traditional family when she was campaigning on Twitter to have my husband of almost 10 years deported. So protecting a traditional family, but break up mine. I would like to welcome everyone into this movement, including my husband, who will be starting the process of becoming a U.S. citizen a little later on this year. And
theatrics, okay? There's no need for the theatrics here, folks. Like, come on, folks. Can we just debate the issues,
John,
okay? Like,
I think that Lauren summarizes it pretty well. We're not saying that we're going to turn these people away. We're just saying their issues can't be represented in our party platform because their issues fundamentally
that's what I'm saying too.
Deviant from traditional American society. And these allusions to the Constitution as though it's an argument about religion, I think, is kind of disingenuous because, like I said earlier, Lauren, speaking for myself, I was against these sort of issues before I really came to the fit. But I think it's important to put that in context. That like when the Constitution was written, you know, you mentioned the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, even the founding fathers like Thomas Jefferson, who would now be considered to be like the most radically pro-freedom of the founding fathers. When he was governor of Virginia, he wanted the punishment for sodomy to be the equivalent to the punishment for rape, because these were always considered to be deviant acts that were against and went against the social fabric of the nation and the moral fabric of the nation. So if you want to come vote for Republicans nominally, that's great, but you can't have your issues represented because all of your issues, whether that be two men getting married or it's just like it all represents something that is the total enshrinement of equality, which is fundamentally a left-wing idea, and it always has been.
There you go. Counted on John Doyle to just say something absolutely so beautifully, perfectly. Okay, folks.
And then Blaire, give us your conclusion.
I guess my conclusion would be that this is all kind of silly. You have half the country unconstitutionally locked down, people dying alone right now, can't go to funerals, people out of work, like the entirety of the country living with almost no dignity. Out of all of a sudden we have lockdowns and just so much stuff to worry about. We're bombing Syria, you know. I can't wrap my head around this being even remotely close to the most important conversation happening on the right or anywhere.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got to stop. I'm sorry. Listen, I actually respect Blaire in this debate, right? Like, I think she's been calm-headed. Some of the things she said have been pretty reasonable, right? But this is kind of a cop-out, right? This is actually kind of a cop-out. Basically just saying, well, I think in conclusion, you never say that at the end of the debate. You never say like, I think in conclusion, this is just really not that important. It kind of is a concession that like you got defeated. Like that is what you usually say when you've lost. It's like, well, this is not really that important anyway, so who really cares? Like, I'm just saying argumentatively, if you guys are ever having a debate, never do this, okay? Never get out there and say, well, you know what? It's not really that. Who cares anyway? Because that basically is you saying you lost the debate. And I think they did lose the debate overall. Okay. But actually speaking on this issue, you know, it is actually something that is important, an important discussion for the right to have. And perhaps like this is one aspect of that discussion, but overall, the broader discussion of like, what does MAGA mean? What should MAGA represent? What should the conservative movement represent broadly? Like, as I talked about in the beginning of this stream, right? I personally didn't talk at all about these issues, but I was talking about this sort of divide between the original MAGA base, the original tenets of MAGA versus this new sort of liberalized woke coalition that basically is just the old establishment GOP that looks more diverse and looks more woke versus the actual populist anti-establishment, anti-GOP in many ways base idea that is MAGA, right? That is the debate that we do need to be having. And so I think that it is an important debate that we need to have because especially as we go into 2022, where most candidates are branding themselves as MAGA or America first, but don't actually believe in what MAGA or America first means and simply just sort of use it for votes or sort of have this Jared Kushner idea of what it means. That is in a debate that we need to have. This is one aspect of that debate. There are many aspects of the debate, but overall, it is a very important actually debate that the right needs to have and that MAGA specifically needs to have. So this is a cop-out again, but it's actually not a very good cop-out because it is actually an important debate.
And I think that it's also kind of just over. I guess I'm just kind of saying what I've already said before, but Trumpism is the future, and Trumpism isn't, unfortunately, what you've seen with Lauren and with John today.
I'm sorry, but okay, listen. Again, like I said, I'm going to be the defender of this because John is my guy. John Doyle understands what Trumpism is, okay? Like I said, Trumpism is a populist, working class, anti-establishment movement that seeks to put the interest of America's families, America's working class, America's middle class, over the interest of big business, of, you know, globalist elites, of the political establishment, of foreign nations, right? And this is something that me and John basically like say the same thing on. Like it's basically an attempt to unrig the political system that is killing us and killing our families, right? And it's a pro-family movement. So it is at its core, because MAGA is family-centric, basically fix the system that is destroying your family. In that sense, MAGA is super socially conservative, because what's more socially conservative than the family? And so I think for Blaire White to say that she represents MAGA or Trumpism, whereas John Doyle doesn't, totally disingenuous, totally inaccurate. John Doyle understands the original values that caused Trump to rise to power. It had nothing to do with free markets or free trade. In fact, it really didn't have anything to do with like freedom or individual liberty itself. True, those are things that Trumpers believe, that Republicans and conservatives fundamentally believe in, but it is not the reason why Trump rose, okay? Because if that's what people were looking for, Rand Paul would be in Trump's place, or Ted Cruz would be in Trump's place. A Tea Party guy would be in Trump's place. That's not the thing that Trump focused on, right? Trump's message fundamentally centers around order, okay? Restoring order in society, whether that's economic order, social order, you name it, right? That's sort of the core tenet of MAGA type of conservatism. It's order. Not so much freedom. Like freedom is a part of it, right? And obviously, I don't believe you can have freedom or liberty without order. But fundamentally, that's where Trumpism, MAGA, the original tenets at least, sort of diverge from the orthodox thinking of, you know, the Tea Party and the old establishment GOP, right? So again, John Doyle understands what it is to be to you know, be a Trumper. Understands what Trumpism is. I don't really know much about Blaire White's political beliefs specifically, right? But from what I can see, she doesn't seem to be actually like a strong believer in Trumpism. Like I said, she seems to be, and look, I don't really never watched her, so I don't know where her actual political beliefs are. But she seems to me to be sort of that belief that Trumpism is basically just the Tea Party and or the old establishment GOP with a more diverse, woke, oh, look at me, I'm not racist, I'm not sexist, I'm not transphobic, whatever, coalition, when that's not what it is, okay? That's not what it is. There are actual ideas that make Trumpism different, and, you know, John Doyle, even Lauren, they represent those ideas and much more strongly than the people on the left side of the screen do. So,
and they're certainly free to advocate for an increase or a rise in social conservatism. But speaking for a really big chunk of my generation, which are going to be the people running things very soon, and they already are, you know, what Karlyn said earlier about we grew up in a time where we were very, very turned off from social conservatism, and a lot of the more radical ideas that you're seeing now in regards to gender ideology, wokeness, it is the pendulum effect of social conservatism. It is. It was, I grew up in a time where when I was 5.
I mean, again, what in the world is she talking about? The reality is conservatives were extremely complacent in the culture, basically following the 1950s. Conservatives basically sat out the culture wars, basically did not try to take back or have a hand in the culture, and they sort of just let it be sort of the libertarian approach to culture. Hey, as long as you're not infringing on my rights, you can say or do whatever you want, which is true on a governmental level, but on a cultural and social level, we should have an authoritarian culture. We should have an authoritarian society. Even if we have a government that respects the First Amendment, it doesn't mean that we as a culture should not discourage certain ideas, certain behaviors from taking mainstream. I think like that is one thing that I think like some conservatives don't really understand. It's like, hey, I'm not one to judge you so long as you're not infringing on my rights. And it's like, sure, maybe you don't believe that the government should come in and tell this person they can't do that, but you should, in the government's place, stand up and say, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be promoting that, right? And this is something, again, that I don't know what these people are talking about when they say that like we've had too much social conservatism and that's why we have what we have now. If you want to say maybe like the original whiplash from the 1960s to the 50s to the 60s, like that was the rebellion. Maybe there is some credence to that argument, although I would argue like we still had a window after that to sort of take things back. We just refused to. But again, she's not even talking about the 50s versus the 60s. She's talking about like the 1990s and the early 2000s, and that's just simply not true. So,
years old, I was naturally feminine, getting beat up by little Christian kids in my school, and that was kind of the era that we were in. And things changed, and people got disgusted with that. And the pendulum is now to the point where now you have people being disgusted with the opposite end. So. I guess big tent party is the future. Not a huge tent. You don't have to compromise on everything, but you do have to acknowledge the anomalies in people and that everyone's different. And if you're going to be searching for, pure, perfect, ideologically consistent 100% of the time people to only be part of your movement, you're not really going to find many of them.
Okay, so this is another thing I wanted to like sort of discuss. I don't have a problem with like however like an individual is necessarily, right? Like I don't have a problem with necessarily gay individuals. Okay, like that's like, okay, that is what you are. I respect you as a human being. I have a problem with the ideology or the lifestyle, whatever, being promoted into society. I think this is the difference. I think this is where we're like sort of talking past each other. No one is saying Blaire White doesn't have freedom of speech or can't vote Republican. What we're saying is that it is not something that especially conservatism, especially the Republican Party, should be promoting, even not necessarily Blaire White, but the lifestyle, right? The lifestyle, that aspect of Blaire White's identity, that is not something that should be promoted within society. Like, I think this is like I said, it's not to say that individuals don't have free speech. It is to say that we as a culture should be a lot more authoritative, maybe not authoritarian, but authoritative than we actually are. So.
Especially because a lot of these social conservatives on Twitter that love to talk about LGBT people being excluded, a lot of them are secretly gay behind the scenes.
All right, so. I gotta cut.
I don't know that. I'm not sure that's very substantiated, but
that's a loaded statement. I know, John, people want to respond to that stuff. Maybe you are secretly gay behind the scenes. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're super straight. It doesn't really matter, guys. I want to hear your thoughts.
No, but John is super straight. I can confirm that. I think this is the end of the
conversation
debate.
Forever. And I want to let you know something. Obviously, Karlyn and Lauren and Blaire and John coming on. This is something that we don't get a lot of. And before I wrap things up, I just want to let you guys know that you can follow Karlyn, you can follow Lauren, you can follow Blaire and John. All their links to their social medias in the description. If you hate them, if you love them, please don't harass them, but just follow them if you like them. And I also want to thank them so much for coming on today and for being willing to do what many people are not. If you guys liked this, I encourage you, DM them. Comment, start conversations. They probably will block you if you're a troll, but I mean, like, genuinely engage with them and follow them if you like what they believe. And most importantly, if you really liked this, please continue to support this show at blazetv.com/Elijah. It's to get $10 off a year subscription. And guys, we don't know if conversations like this can happen much longer, but it is very important that you help us fight the censorship. We could do this for a long time, and we're going to do this a lot in the future, and that helps support us. So please go to blazetv.com/Elijah. Anyway, thanks so much to Karlyn. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Blaire. And thank you, John, for coming on. My name's Elijah Schaefer, the host of Slightly Offensive, the best worst show on Blaze TV. Make sure that you leave a 5-star review for this podcast. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Links are in the description. And it's the most important part about.
Yeah, anyways. Be sure to go support Elijah, by the way, guys. He's very sadly got demonetized. So he's struggling with censorship. He's my boy. Make sure you go support him. Go subscribe to his channel if you're not already. Shout out. Okay. But wow. We actually spent 2 hours talking about reacting to that. It was only like 50 minutes long, but I guess I threw in an entire hour of commentary. Okay, like that is just my my genius political talent right there. I actually planned on only doing that for an hour and then talking about the news for the other hour, but things change. That's just the way things go. But anyways, tell me. I want to know your thoughts right now, guys. I guess we'll interact with the chat or whatever now. Tell me what your guys' basically thoughts are on this whole situation. Who did you think you identified most? Did you identify most with me in that debate? I mean, I think me and John Doyle basically said for the most part the same stuff. But like where did you kind of like stand with that? Because I want to hear your thoughts and we can have this discussion as well. So Justine says goated. Thank you very much. Goated who? Who's goated? Am I goated? Is John goated? Is Lauren goated? I believe I'm fairly certain you're not saying that Karlyn is goated. Who exactly you're saying is goated? Hopefully it's me. I really do hope it's me. Yeah, dang 2 hours. Eastern Broadcast says, I remember I saw Vince at CPAC. Almost went up, but he was busy talking with a girl. But good show so far. Thank you for saying good show so far. But dude, you should have came up to me. Like, what the heck, man? Like, come on, you can do that. Just I guess just wait for me to be finished. Like, dude, you could have totally approached me. Okay, you should have said hi. You should have said hi. If Lauren wasn't so emotional, she would be goated. I agree. Like I said, there's too much ad hominem for her side, in my opinion, and that's why I think John was. I would like to. And by the way, it's the same thing with Karlyn. I'm not singling out Lauren. I think that the top two people. Way too much ad hominem, a lot of faulty logic. I really would actually like to see John and Blaire White do an actual debate. I feel like that would be a decent debate. I thought Blaire brought some reasonable arguments to the table. I thought Karlyn was just completely over emotional and basically just nonsensical. Like I just really didn't. Mining, I don't know why Mining Diamonds, whatever his name is, says social conservatism is the future. A big tent will collapse. None of the European political coalitions actually last longer than 6 years. And this is absolutely true. This is basically what I was saying as well. Here's the thing. Coalitions do work, but the coalitions have to be created on something like foundational. Not just, we all hate the left, right? Like common hatred of other people does unite people in the short term, and in the long term, it doesn't work. Like, really, the way you could create a long-lasting coalition is through social conservatism. You create it between the American middle class in general, the white working class, the Hispanic working class, Asian working class as well. I'm sure even you'd have people from, we've had a really hard time winning the black vote, but I bet you'd even have some people from the black working class and the black middle class jump over. But that is long term, you have to target something people foundationally believe, right? And it's like, I think I believe Lauren said there's 15 million or something unregistered Christian voters in America. If they all came out and voted, imagine a huge difference it would make. These are the people that I feel like we need to be targeting. We would ultimately the people that we need to be going after. And like I said, I want to talk about expanding. There are two key demographics essentially that Republicans need to win elections. That is the working class, specifically in the Midwest, right? States like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, that traditional, and Ohio, although Ohio is basically +8 for Republicans now. But overall, that old school traditional, what traditionally used to be called the blue wall, that Trump managed to be the first Republican presidential candidate, basically since Reagan and the Bush years, the Bush 1 years, to crack that. And at the same time, Hispanics, right? Hispanic voters make the difference in places like Florida, Texas, and Arizona, and overall are simply the fastest growing demographic group in the United States, right? And again, you do not appeal to these groups by dumb pandering. You have to talk about issues that really matter to them, okay? That's why issues like immigration and free trade did so well in the Midwest for Trump. These are issues that actually matter to these people. Now, Trump didn't just put on a hard hat and say, hey, look, I'm working class. Come vote for me, guys. And the same thing is true with Hispanics. Although I feel like he could have spent, in 2020, the Republican Party should have spent a lot more time appealing to Hispanics. It might have saved Arizona, to be completely honest, even with, actually, I'm not allowed to say that on YouTube, but, even considering stuff, I think would have likely saved Arizona if we could have turned out more of the Hispanic vote. That is something that is substantiated by the numbers, right? That is the group that Republicans need. It's a solely conservative demographic group. Maybe not economic. This is the other thing. Maybe not the most economically conservative, right? But that's the other aspect of where John and Lauren are right. Is if the Republicans want to win, they have to become economically populist, socially conservative. That is where most of America is. By the way, not just the white working class, not just the Hispanics in the Southwest. In general, most of America is economically populist, socially conservative. Maybe not the most socially conservative, but socially conservative leaning. At least the electorate in America. Maybe not the millennials. Maybe not our Zoomers. But the actual people that vote in the electorate are people who are middle-aged and older, and that's where most of them are. And if the Republican Party wants to become this big tent, that is who they have to appeal to. That's where they have to be. The populists, the right-wing populism. That is the future of the Republican Party, okay? It is not a more diverse, more woke coalition of whatever the hell the Republican Party used to be. It is something that is fundamentally different, and that is where you have to be in order to win elections. So what is the point of being conservative when there's nothing to conserve? A conservative movement lacking values isn't conservatism. I absolutely agree. I'm totally on the Doyleist side on this. I am too, dude. Doyleist nationalism. We love Doyleist nationalism, don't we, folks? Exactly. Okay, here we go. The future of the party debate, it boils down to if our party is going to attempt to exist within the confines of the liberal mindset or fail, or if we are going to completely refuse that way of thinking. And look, I've talked about many times in the streams why confining to the liberal mindset does not win elections. It just does not actually electorally work. It is actually electoral harm, not a benefit. But even let's just assume for a minute. Let's just pretend for a minute that adopting this liberal mindset did somehow win us elections. It doesn't. It doesn't, by the way, guys. But let's pretend for a second that it does. Even if that were to be the case, it's only going to win. It would only win us elections for the next 1 to 2 to maybe 3 election cycles. Long term, it is a losing strategy. Okay, it might hold off. It might hold off the mob in the short term. Long term, if you keep playing their game, if you keep bowing down to their rules and just trying to work within their confines, within their mindset, ultimately it is a long-term losing strategy. You might even win a few elections in the short term. Hypothetically, like I said, practically speaking, even that doesn't work. But hypothetically, let's say you win a few elections in the short term, it doesn't matter. If you don't actually push back on these foundational beliefs that are overtaking society, you're not going to be able to, in the long term, actually you're not going to actually be able to save the country in the long term. It's just going to hold off the inevitable. You have to actually push back against this stuff, okay? So even if it were electorally effective, it would not save us in the long term. So I'm a John Doyle simp. I am a John Doyle simp, absolutely. But no homo though. No homo though. I wear socks when I do it. So yeah. Anyways, folks, that was 2 hours and 11 minutes. Do you guys still want to talk about the news, or should we just call it a night and let everyone go to bed? I don't know. I'm actually down to keep streaming here if you guys actually want to talk about the actual news. I know this went on for way longer than I expected it to be. It went on for so long that my hair literally just started getting messed up for no reason. I don't even know why that is. Look at this. Look at this in the back. Just a mess. I can't even get it to go down. But we could keep going, or we can call it a night. I don't know, whatever you guys want. But if you guys want me to keep going, maybe you should bribe me with some super chats like that. That might be an electorally effective strategy. You can buy Vince Dao's approval rating. Okay, why don't you buy your minority vote over here? No, just kidding. But seriously, let me know if you guys want to actually talk about the news or just call it a night here. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know, might go to bed streaming through it's still early, Vince. It is early on the West Coast. It's only 8 o'clock here, but it's 11 o'clock on the East Coast. So let's see. Let's do a little poll here. If we want to keep going. But in the meantime, mining away. I don't go mining, but whatever. It's long. It says, Karlyn, weird assumption that the political movements can't have religious or moral elements. No, this is absolutely true, right? Karlyn, weird assumption that political movements can't be religious or have moral elements is weird. Like the political ideology Zionism or other movements. And that's absolutely true, right? That's true. This is actually kind of hypocritical, right? Because it's like the old school, and Trump himself was kind of a Zionist too, right? But the old school Republican thinking that she seems to maybe want us to sort of return to also, like the main reason for such hardcore Zionism in the Republican Party is because of evangelicals, right? Is that the correct? Am I being correct in that, right? So that was something ultimately that, yeah, there is some say there is practical strategy for, being a Zionist, but also, in general, it is the reason why many Republicans are so adamant about Zionism is because of, evangelicals, right? And that is undeniable. So with that being said, who are you to say that religion can't have an influence in politics when it so clearly does, right? And it's not just the far populist, paleo-conservative, whatever, right, that is saying that. You have, the sort of more center right or the more sort of traditional type of Republican also has religious beliefs tied into their political beliefs. So yeah, again, like I really don't understand what she's talking about when she says this. It's just simply not accurate. So super chat doesn't work. What do you mean super chat doesn't? Nah, this got to be cat. What do you mean super chat doesn't work? Goose literally sent a super chat earlier on. Yeah, where's Goose? Exactly. Well, where's Goose with the money? All right, folks. Well, let's see. What should we do here, folks? All right, here's what we'll do. We'll go on for a few more. Okay, let's actually. Wow, Jesus Christ is in the chat. Jesus Christ says, "Yo, what's up?" Do you see the poll up on the Slightly Offensive community page? It asks who won the debate, and over 50% is for John Doyle. John Doyle did win the debate. It's funny because John Doyle didn't actually even talk that much, but he just won just by the virtue of being epic and based. Every time he did talk, he just basically annihilated what the last person said, and that was fantastic. Eastern Broadcast says, "Yo, Jesus, big fan of your work." Hey, right? Anyways. Okay, let's talk about something then. Let's talk a little bit about the news. Where do we even start? Hold on. Where are my banners here? Let me look for my banners. Yeah, okay. Here's what I did plan to talk about. And I was actually probably going to talk about in the beginning, but it is what it is. California is stupid. We all knew this, okay? We all knew that the people who run the state of California, not the highest IQ individuals out there. We all knew this, but I want to put is that really you question if you fully understood the full scope of the stupidity of the state of California. Okay, here's a headline. Let me actually share my screen or something. Let me see. Share screen. Let's start a new pro. Can we? Oh wait, we got to start a new Chrome tab. Hold on, give me a second here. This is really something that will really make you question your like if you really understood how stupid California is. Okay, so let's do this. LA murders. I just read the story this morning, and I just could not believe it. Okay, and you guys know I do live here. I'm sorry, this is just so stupid. Is murder suspect let out accidentally? Let me pull up the story here right now, folks. Here we go. Yeah. So here we go. Murder suspect at large. Report from NBC. Shut up. No. Really? What? Oh my. Okay. You got to turn off your ad blocker so I can give Comcast a bunch of news so we can spread a bunch of left-wing propaganda. Oh my God. Shut up, dude. All right. We're on stream. Fine. We'll pause the ad blocker. You freaking Comcast. Okay. Shut up. I did not. I really just violated my own ethical code there. And that is not something I really seek to do again. And here we go, folks. Now we're getting stupid ads for women's clothing. Okay. Anyways. Okay, here we go. Murder suspect at large after he's mistakenly released from LA area jail. How the hell do you mistakenly, like, again, it is California, I know, but how the hell are you this? I didn't know people could be this stupid. How the hell do you accidentally let a murder suspect out of jail? Like, how does that even happen? Oh, sorry. Oh, it was an accident, guys. And of course, now he's at large. Now there's like a freaking manhunt for him. I bet you he's already, if he's smart. Now, a lot of these murder suspects are stupid, so they probably might just stay around and get caught. But if he's smart, he's in Mexico by now, or he's in another state by now, right? He's long gone. He's gone, right? Now, a lot of these criminals are probably stupid, so they probably don't think like, oh, I got to get out of here. But regardless, how the hell do you do this? I mean, what the hell? I don't even know if I have comment for this. This is just like so ridiculously dumb. I don't know how incompetent you have to be to accidentally let out a murder suspect from jail. Like, don't you actually check who you're letting out of jail before you let them out of jail? Like, what happened here? What happened here? Did we do a Red Dead Redemption move here? Did they just bribe the suspect here, the person being detained? Like, what the hell? How does this even happen? How are you this stupid? What the hell is going on? I have so many questions. Long story short, folks, California has just reached new levels of stupidity. Okay, like that's honestly all there is to it. All right, but that was the introduction story. Okay, that was the intro. Exactly. There are no accidents. That is kind of true. That is kind of true. There are no accidents. Accidentally, they probably did it on purpose. How do you accident? I don't know. Like I genuinely don't know how you how do you do this? I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know, guys. But anyways. The main thing I wanted to talk about, okay, you guys know I'm a high school student. I'm a high school senior in LA, in LAUSD. I think I talked about this on streams like a while back, but here we go, folks. They're finally planning to reopen our school, guys. You might think, oh, that's great news, guys. They're going to finally open the schools like they should have done from the start. Now, hold on just a minute, okay? Curb your enthusiasm, folks, okay? Yes, LA Unified School District is opening their schools at the huge protest of the teachers union here, okay, UTLA. You guys might have heard about UTLA in the news recently because they've actually made national news for their absolutely disgraceful optics and their just sheer lack of regard for actual student health and like student learning. You guys might have heard they made national news after they were basically trying to collect racial data and intimidate parents who were trying to get schools open. And you guys might have also seen recently they got caught in a UTLA private the teachers union, the private Facebook group. They literally got caught for someone posted in the group, if you go on vacation, don't post about it because it doesn't help our image that reopening school does not seem safe if you post that you're going on vacation. So keep in mind, don't go on vacation because it's not safe during spring break. No, they're saying don't go on vacation because it would be bad optics for them. That just shows you absolutely straight up that they actually don't care about the students, right? It's all about optics for them. So they're just trying to find excuses not to go back to school. And that's what it really is all about. And that's really what this teachers union is all about. They're all about just being lazy, not doing any work, not actually caring about the kids. Okay. Now that that's established, and by the way, this is a radical far left teachers union. They actually blocked me on Instagram after I criticized them for posting a picture of a teacher wearing a shirt celebrating the death of police officers. So that's what we're talking about here. Endorsed Bernie Sanders in the 2020 election. Spend more time caring about stupid left-wing politics than actually caring for kids, right? Teachers unions are utterly useless institutions in American society. They should not exist. Many of these teachers unions should be defunded, abolished. They're just a huge stain. They should not be given remotely the political power that they are given in LA Unified. And that's a big problem in our school district is that the teachers union basically gets their way in everything. Everything the teachers unions wants, they get, okay? And they just basically control the district and it's like mob rule. But anyways, so we are going back to school in April. Oh, that's great, guys. No, actually, they're not. Okay. Let me tell you how this is going to work. And this is just probably the lowest. This is utterly the dumbest, most idiotic, moronic idea you might ever hear in your life. And, you're about to hear it. Okay? So the plan for sending kids back to school, quote unquote, is this. In order to reduce the spread of COVID, they want all kids to be in like one cohort during the day. Like you only spend time during the day with one group of kids. You sit in your classroom with that group of kids and you don't go anywhere and you don't mix between cohorts. Okay. And so it's like a hybrid learning model. Okay. You might think on the surface, well, that does seem like a reasonable compromise. But then when you actually realize what this means, you realize that these people are just utter idiots. Okay. Utter morons. What this essentially means, because think about it. How are you in a high school, right? How are you going to keep all the kids together in one room and have the teachers rotate or whatever when so many kids have different schedules? Like, how in the world is that going to work? That doesn't sound like it would work. And the answer is no, it doesn't work. Okay. And so what they've decided is that going back to school, quote unquote, means that you, as a high school kid, you show up to your homeroom. Okay. You show up to your homeroom. You sit in your homeroom the whole day. You plug in a laptop, you Zoom your classes from your homeroom. Okay? So In-person school literally means you show up to school to continue to do online Zoom school. That's what they mean by returning in person to school. And so obviously, like, I'm not doing that. Nobody's doing that. It's just utterly, there's a word I want to use to describe it, but it would not be an optical word, so I'm not going to say it, but it is utterly that word. And it's possibly like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Oh, guys, we're going to reopen schools. No more online learning from home. Now you go show up to school to do online learning. Literally, that is the most idiot. Like, I would rather just not open school, and I'm not going. No one's going back. Okay, no. I'm sorry if anyone actually does that. That's it's kind of their problem. Okay, they're just idiots. But it genuinely just goes to show you that I like my headline shows. California is simply stupid. Okay, they're simply stupid. It is simply a low IQ, dumb, idiotic, moronic idea of going back to school. And that, folks, is why you don't vote for Democrats, okay? That, folks, is why you don't let your state become like California, okay? Because not only do we have LGBT sex education for kindergartners in elementary schools, like at this rate, but we also, this is our idea of school. So yeah, I don't know what to say. They're just so stupid. I mean, that utterly is just the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Yep. I talked about this on before. Actually, some of my streaming OGs might remember that because I did like talk about that before. Yep. That is what they're doing, folks. That is what they're doing. That's the incentive to say no in the first place. That might be that is true. That might be the plan. Is they just don't want people to go back in general. Eastern Broadcast says, "Great show, but I gotta go. Good night, Vince." All right, good night. I will see you. I'll see you. Have a good night. When my kids, when I have kids, I'm 100% putting them in private school if I can. Not a bad move. Not a bad move, to be completely honest. So you just sit in one seat the entire day. Holy crap, that sucks. It does suck. And I'm sure they're going to be masked Nazis about it all. They're not even going to let you talk to other kids or whatever, which completely ruins the point. Okay. And actually, I think reading from the thing, they said, oh, you're going to show up to school to do social emotional learning. What does social emotional learning means? Well, you can understand, you can expect from a bunch of libs what exactly that means. And it's just ridiculous. Okay. Greg Abbott of Texas is trying to censor Gab due to anti-Semitism. Oh, hold on. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. I thought Greg Abbott was actually signing something in favor of free speech on social media, but if so, that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, it is a free speech platform, so you're gonna have views that are a little bit out there. That is true, but that is no reason to censor the website. I mean, mature adults can handle differing opinions. There's no need to censor platforms for views that you disagree with. So it's kind of a shame what happened to Parler. At least Gab has its own infrastructure. I don't actually use Gab because not enough of you guys are actually on it, but that is just ridiculous. Yeah. I'm going to wear my mask improperly. LMAO. This is actually, I'm not going to say it. You guys, I'll let you guys know after I graduate. This is yeah. I'll tell you. Don't worry. Hey Vince, what are your thoughts on online school? I think I've seen a video you made on online school, but I don't have the time to watch it. I haven't took the time to watch it. I mean, yeah, you just go watch that video. You can basically, it's Sound of Dao podcast number 2 on the channel. Yeah, you could go find it there. Yeah, but long story short, it sucks. It sucks. But you can get into the details, on that video, I think. Mature adults can handle different opinions. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Like Doyle says, you have to just be clown pill at this point. This is very true, folks. You got to take the clown pill, okay? Don't take the black pill, take the clown pill. If things are just so utterly disgruntling for you and you're just so don't cry at it. Don't be depressed at it. Just laugh at it, okay? Because, the country's kind of becoming a comedy at this point. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to cry at the comedy or laugh at the comedy? At least, be like the people on the Titanic that were playing the violin as it goes down sinking, like kind of laughing at it, so... Yeah. You guys want to read the chat? Let's do Q&A in the chat for a few minutes, and then we'll call it a night here, folks. So ask your questions in the chat, whatever you want me to talk about. We'll see. Put your questions in the chat. We'll answer a few, then we'll call it a night. This was a very successful stream, if I do say much for myself. So yeah, just let me know. Part of my school gets cold at this time of the year, so the only reason I wear my mask properly is to keep my face warm. This is actually something I learned in DC when I was in DC this winter. Yeah, it was that like cloth mask, not like the surgical like whatever that material is called type of mask, plastic mask or whatever. But cloth mask actually is actually kind of effective at it. Hold on. Wait, someone said, or take the Homer Simpson pill, become so childish that nothing bothers you. Not bad. Thoughts on the America First Union, anyone? America First Union are my boys, okay? Actually, I don't know the person who runs the central organization, but I do know the person who runs AFU in Arizona. He's my guy. Dude, they're the boys. Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to give this away, but we might actually be doing an AFU event in Maricopa County, Arizona, in the summer. So we'll let you guys know about that. I think John Doyle is. Don't publicize because I'm not don't go back snitching because I don't know if I'm allowed to publicize this. Okay, but I can't imagine they'll be too mad. Yeah, we might be doing an event with AFU in Arizona this summer with John Doyle, Red Eagle Politics, me, and possibly Paul Gosar. So if you live in Maricopa County, we'll let you know. We'll let you know when it gets closer. The event's not like planned out yet, but that is the plan. We're planning on doing that. Any music recommendations? I'm going to support my fellow conservatives. Okay. We're going to be based with this. We're going to support our fellow conservatives. So I'm going to say Bryson Gray, Forgiata Blow, Charlie Farley, Ryan Upchurch, and what are some other conservative artists? Charlie Daniel, which rest in peace, Charlie Daniels, absolute legend. But Charlie Daniels, I'll give those people. What do you think about Mike Pompeo potentially running for president since it's rumored that he's going to Iowa to pre-campaign? No, listen, Mike Pompeo, I mean, he wasn't like the worst Secretary of State either, but I really don't trust him. He does seem to be kind of like a neocon establishment hawk to me. I actually think he probably held back the Trump agenda when it comes to foreign policy a lot, held back the America First policy a lot. And he really just doesn't have the charisma or the anything to be president either. Not a fan of that. So thoughts on Nick Fuentes? Should I answer this question, folks? We're gonna watch the optics in this a little bit. But okay, what I will say about Nick Fuentes is that I don't agree with like everything he says, but I do think he has been unfairly slandered and pushed out of the discussion in ways that were just not right. Okay, and this is something I kind of always was a little bit about. I thought it was kind of unfair. Is that I do think that Fuentes raised some genuine questions within the right-wing movement that were not talked about enough, were not thought about enough, and he played a very important role in actually bringing the discussion to some of the issues that like we don't pay enough attention to. And I think instead of ostracizing that, instead of completely pushing Fuentes out, it is a genuine discussion that we as conservatives need to have. And I don't think that dodging the questions is going to do the conservative establishment any good. I mean, you just look at it, their attempt to sort of blacklist Fuentes from everything, to deplatform him, to not give him a space to at least ask questions and have dialogue. Actually, his movement actually grew massively as a result of that, so it's like they're really good. The conservative establishment this is a question that the conservative establishment really is going to have to answer. Okay. And that's what I'll say. And obviously, like a lot of people in the chat are saying, Fuentes, I think a big problem that he has that makes it easy for people to slander him as like a white nationalist or whatever. The part of the reason for that, right, is that he does have optics problems, right? He does need to watch his optics a lot more, and that I think Base Mexican was saying, right, he does need to like that. That is a big reason why I think it was kind of easy for a lot of people to just toss him aside, because it makes a lot of edgy jokes and stuff like that. And that's why I think a lot of you guys, I know I have a lot of grapers in the chat. I think a lot of you guys raise genuine questions. A lot of you guys ask genuine questions. I'm not going to say that. But I think a lot of there are some issues with that. I'm like, you're asking the right questions here, but I think the biggest thing that you guys have to focus on is the optics, right? Because it is to keep in mind that it is very easy to be slandered. You know, you see what the media does, and the conservative establishment does engage in these tactics sometimes too. You gotta watch the image that you present, right? And that's how ultimately, you know, the movement or whatever that you guys are trying to push can be effective, is if you guys watch your optics, you know, a little more, sometimes a lot more than you guys do. And that's all I'll say about it. Okay. That's what I'll say about it. So. Where do you see yourself as a political commentator in a year? I don't know. Like this, I actually in 2020, I really thought I was hitting the stride, and then I just got censored everywhere, and like especially on Instagram, which is my main like metric of growth. And so honestly, I don't know. Hopefully we can actually grow and not just like stagnate the way we really have been, mainly because of censorship. Also, there's a little bit of, you know, just deadness, a little bit of like people don't care anymore because Trump is out of office. But you know, regardless, just let's hope we're really taking off. Okay. We were really starting that in 2020. And then 2 weeks after the election, we got censored, we got shadow banned, and it never really came back. So that's really unfortunate. But anyways, Mitch Lozada says, thank you for the $5 super chat, but a $5 holla. Have you heard what's going on official Star Wars YouTube channel? Downvoted all recent videos and comments flooding supporting Gina Carano. I've not heard about that, but that is something we should also do ourselves. So why don't we actually go do that? Why don't we let's just do that right now. Hold on, let me share my am I sharing? I'm not sharing my screen. Hold on, give me a second. Let me share screen. Okay, let's see. Vince Dao. Here we go. Okay, let's Gina. All right, no, it's a Star Wars YouTube channel. Star Wars. Let's do the same. Let's engage in that as well. Okay. Recent video. Oh my God. Oh, look at that rate. Wow. Okay. Dislike, disavow, dislike. Okay. There you go. Dislike that. Dude, look at this dislike ratio. That is insane. That is absolutely insane. Okay. Anyways, yeah, you guys can go do that as well. But yeah, that's crazy. That dislike ratio is insane, man. That dislike ratio is insane. Thoughts on Israel/Zionism. So overall, like I think we should, you know, reduce our foreign aid in general. But you know, other than that, I don't really have like opinions on Israel. You know, it's just they're there. They're kind of a pragmatic ally for us in the Middle East. But overall, I'm for reducing, you know, foreign aid in general. So I assume that's your question. Thoughts on the current value of a college education? The current value of a college education, there is some value sometimes to a college education. I guess I'm a hypocrite for saying this because I am going to college myself. But overall, it's really drastically declined. So my Missouri school district on 30K plus people is going to back fully to in-person school after spring break. My high school hasn't had any cases since early February. Based, epic. Let's go. Let's go. Also, another question, what is the hate on TPUSA about? Like, I heard someone say that they were preventing certain people from commenting on their Instagram posts. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that. Canceled my Disney Plus. Based. Fuentes and John Doyle are the same, but with opposing behaviors. I would actually disagree with this. There are some areas where there are actual ideological differences, you know, with them. But that is what it is. People are pissed off from Gina being fired. Yellow Flash 2 is a good YouTube channel for covering the Gina Carano filing. Okay, well, go check it out, guys. Go check it out. Go check it out, boys. But yeah. Anyways, we'll peruse the chat a little bit more here, and then we'll just call it a night. But will I ever run for office? I don't know. Probably not. I would consider it though, but it's not something I don't think I would. It's not in my plans, but it's like if I felt like it was my calling to run for office and I felt like I really needed to, yeah, I think I would do it. I would consider it, but it's not something I like really plan to. If Biden does free college, will college education value decrease? Yes, I think that's basically common sense. Especially like free 4 years, free community college. I mean, community college is almost free anyway, so I don't think it'll make a huge difference. But in terms of, free 4-year college, yeah, that is just kind of the way it works. Doyle Vince 2040 Reclaim America based. I'll be Doyle's vice president anyway. That's kind of epic. All right, let's see here, dude. It's all right. Let me hold on. Let me just say this to my groypers in the chat right now. Okay. You notice, guys, like I didn't like give you guys a condemnation or whatever. Okay. You better appreciate that, because if this ever, I will probably get in trouble for that. Okay. Like, I don't care. Like I'm saying what I genuinely believe here. Like, I think, I don't agree with you guys on everything, but I think in a lot of ways you guys are unfairly misrepresented, unfairly slandered. And I think you guys should be given the same platform that, these other people in conservatism are given. Right. But I hope you appreciate me saying that, because I actually sacrifice a lot for me personally to defend you guys. Like, it is something that I really, it's kind of taboo for someone like me. Like, we're not supposed to do. So I hope you appreciate it. Okay. I hope you appreciate that. What the hell is a graper? I'm sorry for not being up to date. Long story. Okay. Long story. Don't worry about it. Go on YouTube, search up John Doyle. Yeah, Doyle is this. Hold on, let me see. This is John Doyle right here.
Forced Christian tax.
Hold on, where is he? Where is he? That's John Doyle. He was this guy in the debate that we were basically reacting to. So yeah, let's go through a few more questions here, and then I'll just call it a night here, folks. But let's see what we got going on here. Let me see. Thoughts on mug cake? What the hell is mug cake? Hold on, let me see. What is mug cake? Mug cake. I've seen. Oh shoot, I dropped my AirPod. There it is. I've seen this. This looks pretty good, but I'm not a big fan of chocolate cake. So I don't know if mug cake is necessarily my thing. Okay. I'm not exactly sure about that. But these microwave cakes do look pretty good, but I'm not a big chocolate guy. I'm more of a vanilla guy. And I guess that if that makes me racist, like, I apologize. Okay. I'm sorry that is not optical. But it's just a cake and mug. Okay. I've seen I'm not a big chocolate guy, but mug cake does look good. I've never tried it myself though. Thoughts on Steven Crowder? Steven Crowder is cool. You could do vanilla. Okay, you can do vanilla. Well, that is my move. That is the move with the mug cake here, folks. Mug cakes are more convenient. How do you even make a mug cake? Let me see. How do you actually make it? Like, do you literally just like throw in the eggs and throw in the batter and then just put it in the microwave and then just let it like cook like that? Like, is that how you do it? Because if that's the case, then interesting, very interesting, right? Some of them are kind of bitter, but if you get the recipe right, they can be good, huh? Should we we should make a mug cake sometime on Vince Dao Live. That would be that'd be pretty epic, to be honest. It's just a smaller amounts of cake ingredients. So you literally just put it in the microwave, like you just throw the egg and everything, and you just put it in the microwave and it cooks. Interesting. Thoughts on Nathaniel Abbott? You mean cameraman Badan? I don't know. Actually, I know all I know about him is he's John Doyle's cameraman. I don't actually know anything about him, but some of my friends say he's very like based in epic, so I'll take their word on it. So I guess Nathaniel Abbott is very, very cool. Cameraman Badan. Cameraman banana nationalism right there. Super easy, just a cake, but with smaller sizes of ingredients. Okay. Thoughts on Candace Owens? Candace Owens is cool. I'm not like a huge like super fan of her. Like it's really weird because I noticed like a lot of my friends were like red pilled by Candace Owens, and that was really never me. Like I was actually red pilled by Tucker Carlson. But you know, I don't really have anything against her. The cameraman banana is basically pretty much John Doyle. Yeah, well, it makes sense, right? You know, if you spend that much time around John Doyle, there's no chance that you're just not red pilled in the end. So you know, yeah. All right, let's take a few more chats here, and then we'll just like call it a night. I'm actually not that tired. I'm just like running out of things to say. So you know. Thoughts on people saying we live in a rape culture? I really don't think this makes any, like, what does it mean to be a rape culture? Our culture is not exactly going around promoting raping people. You know, it doesn't really, like, what the hell does that even mean? We live in a rape culture. Like, people, like, what sane, rational person isn't against rape? I don't understand what that, like, it's just stupid. I was red pilled by my commie uncle. Okay, interesting. So you just saw how stupid the other side is and decided that wanted to make you right wing. That's not bad. Doyle needs to debate Ben Shapiro. I actually would like to see that. Actually, that's actually a good debate. I would like to see. Even like Michael Knowles. You know, Michael Knowles is someone who really is kind of the first, like, he's really been talking about this sort of stuff for a while. And I know they did a Sunday special together, but I actually would like to see Knowles and Shapiro kind of have a genuine debate on this on this stuff, because Shapiro it does play a role in bringing a lot of people into conservatism, but fundamentally, I agree with Shapiro on most things. Where I fundamentally disagree with Shapiro is, well, not, I don't know if I'd say fundamentally. I disagree with like him halfway on economics. Like I disagree with half of Shapiro's economic stances. In foreign policy, I fundamentally disagree. I disagree with Ben Shapiro strongly on foreign policy, and then halfway on economics. Other than that, like, but that is the interesting. That is the debate. Like Shapiro is more of a he has kind of interesting because he's a Tea Party guy on domestic issues, and he's basically George Bush on foreign policy, right? And like I said, I'm kind of the opposite of that. I'm MAGA. I'm kind of where 2016 Trump is on both domestic policy and foreign policy. And I think, by the way, I think that's where most of the conservative movement is moving. I think most of the conservative movement is moving away from your Ben Shapiro's and more towards like your 2016 Donald Trumps, your Michael Knowles's, your Tucker Carlson's, your John Doyle's. That's where the conservative movement really is moving towards. Actually, no, I was introduced into conservatism by Hunter Avalon, which is funny because he's now a cringe femboy. That is true. He is now a cringe femboy. He's yeah. Yeah. I was red pilled by John Doyle. Okay, all right. I see you, King. I see you, King. I actually didn't. I kind of recognized John Doyle, but I didn't really know who he was until like a few months ago. As actually, you know, what's funny. Okay, I actually, I don't know if you guys know the Armchair Historian on YouTube. I actually confused them. Okay, I was confused. I actually thought they were the same person for a little bit. You don't know the Armchair Historian. He's like the same. He's like a kind of like a skinny kind of white guy with like glasses, right? And also he has old rifles in the back of his like his setup. I don't remember what kind. I think Armchair Historian has like Mausers, whereas John Doyle has the M1 Garand. Is it a Garand? I think he has a Garand. I don't know if it's M1 Garand or M1A, but John Doyle has the M1s. But it's like these guys, like similar kind of like white guys with glasses with like old war props in the back of their setup. And it's really funny because like I actually used to confuse. I actually thought they were the same person for a long time until I actually found out who John Doyle was, which actually, funny story, as a matter of fact, I actually really learned who John Doyle was from this. We actually were in the same Newsweek article. I don't know if you guys knew this, but let me just Google myself, Vince Dao. So here you go. So this is a Newsweek article that was written about like basically 12 up and coming conservatives. Let me just block notifications. And I was in this article, so I'm one of the young and diverse conservative stars that progressives need to fear. And so, as you can see, Vince Dao, there you go. There's me. Yeah. So there am I, Vince Dao. But also, guess who else is in this article, folks? Guess who else is on this article? It is the man himself. Here's Nick Sandman. It is the man himself, folks. Where is he? Where is he? There he is, folks. There's the king right there. John Doyle, 20 years old. There he is, folks. There he is. So that's actually where I really learned precisely who John Doyle was, is from the article that we were both in together. And that's actually how we bonded. That's actually how we actually got to know each other. I literally DM'd him once and I was like, hey, did you know we were both in the same Newsweek article once? And he's like, hey, let's go. And then that's actually how we now know each other, is from this article. So funny story about the two of us. But yeah. Doyle Dow 2040, make America epic again. Hey. All right, folks. That'd be pretty epic, not gonna lie. I would gladly be Doyle's running mate. That would be an honor, Mr. Doyle. Although, you know what? I'll tell you, what my dream job is? Okay, people always ask, do you want to go into politics? My dream job, and obviously it's probably something that would never happen. The chances are very low. My dream job is actually to be a White House press secretary. That looks so fun to me. Kayleigh McEnany basically inspired me. Dude, I would want to do that for a living for a few years. Yeah, it does get tiring, but obviously it's you only do it for 4 to 8 years at most. And most people rotate their press secretaries, so you're not going to last the whole term. But regardless, that is something I really would want to do, is be a White House press secretary someday. That would be pretty epic. That'd be pretty awesome. John is too based. He oozes with Chad energy. Facts. Ayo, based. All right. Anyways, let's take. Okay, I keep saying let's take a few more, and then I keep going. Let's take 2 more questions, and then we'll call it a night here, folks. Okay, so 2 more questions, and then we'll cut off the stream. So let's see. Or 2 more questions, or just comments that I end up talking about. But let's see here. Brad Nader says, I tried to turn my cousin to the other side, but she was so brainwashed, and she said I was raised into it and I couldn't see the truth. It happens, folks. It happens. Listen, you're not going to red pill everyone. You're not going to win them all. Okay, you're not going to win them all. That is something that you definitely have to deal with. John Doyle attracts a lot of Latinas for some reason. Hey, listen, because he's a Chad. He's a Chad. He of course he attracts Latinas because he's a Chad. Listen, what woman with actual self-respect would not want to be John Doyle's wife? That's a question I really want to ask. Because John Doyle is awesome. I miss Kayleigh McEnany. I think we all do. I think actually going from Kayleigh McEnany to Jen Psaki might have actually been a bigger downgrade than Biden to Trump himself. That might be a little bit of a hot take, but it is very close. I actually think that might have been a bigger downgrade than the president, is the change from past press secretary to current press secretary. So how do you red pill your partner? All right, listen. Okay, I know this is not kind of a cop out, but first of all, you should have found a partner that agreed with you. Maybe not 100% politically, but at least 100% foundationally to begin with. But to red pill your partner, I don't know. Just talk to them. Everyone is different. This is what I think some people need to understand. Is there's no one single way to convince someone of something. Everyone has different appeals, okay? And that's why for me, it's that's why I said okay, if someone like Blaire White wants to go and try to win over those people, go for it. Now, there are certain appeals I think that are on the aggregate and generally speaking are more effective, and those are the types of strategies that the Republican Party and the conservative establishment and organization and movement as a whole needs to promote. But on an individual level, you have to figure out what works best for that person, right? Because not every person is appealed by the same type of arguments or the same type of ideas, right? Everyone's a little bit different. And so that is kind of a cop-out, but it is kind of true that it's you have to know what gets your partner going, what your partner believes, and act accordingly to that. So yeah. Why is this guy simping so hard? I'm just recognizing alpha, okay, from one error to another. I'm just recognizing alpha energy. I can't do that. I can't do that here, folks. Okay. Anyways, let's take one more question. Let's take an actual question as our last thing, and then we'll call it stream a night. So put your question in the chat right now. I'll wait for the chat to catch up, obviously. But let's take one more question, and we'll just call it a night here. But yeah. Oh, wait a minute. But until then, let's see. I lost a friend because she tried to force a blue pill down my throat. Look, you're going to lose friends for being conservative. I lost a lot. You're going to lose a lot too. It's just how the cookie crumbles, folks. It's just how the cookie crumbles. That's how it's always going to do. It's addition by subtraction. That's what I'll call it. Please run for office. I don't know, guys. I don't know if I'm actually would be the best politician. I feel like I'm more of the commentator type. And I feel like the people will try to what I will say is that I think through my career as a commentator, I have said things that if I were to ever run for office would be used as smear tactics against me. And depending on where the electorate is in wherever I'm running, might not work out the best. Okay. Like, listen, if I were trying to be a politician, I would like craft my image so differently. Like, you guys see me, I really just don't care. Okay. I really just don't care. I just say what I want. I do what I want. But that is because I'm a commentator, right? That is, I'm allowed to do that. As a politician, optics are so important. I think I would have crafted my public image a lot differently if I was planning to be a politician, but I'm not. So, who cares about cancel culture? But if you're a politician, it's like the cancel culture doesn't matter. But if you're a regular person, you're a commentator, news pundit, who the hell cares? Let's all say what we want. Addition by subtraction. I love that. That's actually a quote from John Kreese in Cobra Kai. I don't know if people knew that. Okay, this is not going to be the last question. What college are you going to? I'm not disclosing that, at least not yet. But is a Sigma male a real thing? Is a Sigma male a real thing? All right, I'm going to be honest. No, I feel like a Sigma male is a little bit of a cop-out. It's kind of a cope. Right? It's kind of as you try to say, like, well, listen, I'm kind of like an outcast. By the way, there's nothing wrong being a lone wolf in society. So I guess a Sigma male is a real thing, but the idea that the Sigma male is like at the top of the hierarchy, simply not true. I think it's kind of a cop-out for actually being involved in society and actually joining society and actually, like engaging in society, trying to fix society for yourself. So I think the Sigma male is a real thing. I don't think it's like the great thing is made out to be. I think it's better to be an alpha male than a Sigma male because an alpha male actually is a good benefit to society, whereas a Sigma male kind of just secedes and kind of just gives up on it all. And I don't think that's ultimately what society should start. So yeah, with that being said, that will be the last question we'll take tonight. That'll do it here for tonight, folks. If your question didn't get answered, I'm sorry, but we will be back next Wednesday with week 3, another live stream of Vince Dao Live. And so I'll see you guys then, and I'll answer more of you guys' question then. But for now, guys, I'm gonna call it a night. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope we all had a good time here, folks. We had a good time here, folks, didn't we? But yeah, with that being said, good night, guys. Have a good rest of your night. I'll be back tomorrow with a podcast episode. And yeah, with that being said, I'll see you guys. Remember, folks, remember, alpha moves only. And remember to leave a like on the video and to subscribe to the channel with post notifications on to join the Vince Dao Empire. And folks, have a good night, everybody.